Oh, man, if you're a football fan from the state of North Carolina, there's a chance you had a pretty rough weekend. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. What a weekend, man. Clemson absolutely blasted App State. Tennessee absolutely blasted NC State. North Carolina had all they could handle and more with Charlotte. And the Carolina Panthers left a big, steaming pile on the sideline in New Orleans. I bought into the hype, man. That's my screw up. I didn't think that they're going to go out there and be a 10-win football team. Let's be real. I never thought that. But I thought the Carolina Panthers had taken a step in the right direction. I thought the New Orleans Saints, a little bit old. Derek Carr, kind of old. Alvin Kamara, kind of old. I thought there's no way offensively the Saints are going to look crisp. And there's no way that the Carolina Panthers look as bad as they did again in 2024. And boy, was I wrong on every single one of those points.
Well, you're not wrong. I teeter the line, Diesel, of is it game one? Is everything going to be okay? Are we overreacting? Or are the Carolina Panthers really that bad? Because to your point, what we saw yesterday, it was indeed a pile of you-know-what.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. This is what Dave Canales, brand new head coach, 0-1 in his head coaching career, had to say about that performance after the game.
Those are critical factors. It flips the field. It gives them more possessions. And even when we had our chances, we didn't get our first completion for a while there. So just all around, poor execution and all.
Suck is the word you're looking for, Dave.
Turn the ball over, and you give that offense chances. And what we found out is this is a pretty good offense. And we learned a lot about ourselves today.
Good.
A group of guys that haven't played a lot of football together.
Oh, if only, Dave, you had played him in the freaking preseason. We got a group of guys who hadn't played a whole lot of football together.
Yeah.
No, you know what, Dave? Of course they haven't played a lot of football together because you wouldn't play him in the preseason. He continues.
Together, the communication, working off each other, playing those things. That's all stuff that we got to get to as we look at the film. So for me, I think, the positive I can take out of it is the way that the guys stuck together and just kept playing hard. There's nothing more I can ask for when you're, faced with a situation.
Getting your skull caved in.
Half, can we just keep playing football?
You win together, you get skull drugged together.
It's true.
That's what happened.
That seesaw, Diesel, I was thinking about the exact same thing that you just said yesterday. Should you have been more aggressive in the preseason? And the reason I bring up the seesaw is I used the illustration a minute ago. One side is it was just the first game. The other side is the Panthers may be that bad. I'll use the seesaw illustration again here, Diesel. One side is maybe they should have played more in the preseason. The other side is maybe they just suck, and it wouldn't matter. and that's what was going through my head yesterday. And it's an incredibly fascinating conversation. Did I think Carolina would come out of the gates with their hair on fire? No. But to your point, did I think they would come out and get their skull caved in? I didn't see that coming. I thought it would be very competitive, and it was not.
There is absolutely no substitution whatsoever for live in-game reps. And if you only play your starters for one series in the third preseason game against a team that's playing their 2s and 3s, you're not getting anywhere close to enough preseason reps, live snaps to gel this team together. We knew that the offensive line was still going to be a problem this year. I figured just with the talent that they acquired, the guards, Robert Hunt and the other one's name escapes me off the top of my head, just with those two guys having a veteran presence there on the offensive line, they would anchor that line and be a little bit better. But guess what? Bryce Young is now on pace for 68 sacks in 2024. That's more sacks than he had last year.
They had 4 yesterday? Yeah. Is that right?
4 yesterday. Here's the stats. This is just, if you're a Saints fan, this is great. Derek Carr,
Brown, right?
19 of 23, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Sounds like Cade Klubnik in the first quarter. Opposite that, Bryce Young, 13 of 30, 171, and 2 interceptions.
In the first quarter?
Miles Sanders, 5 carries, 22 yards.
Ouch.
Chuba Hubbard, 6 carries, 14 yards. Xavier Legette, put an asterisk next to this, okay? I'm not making fun of Xavier here. 4 catches, 35 yards. Jonathan Mingo fumbled the football. Just all around bunch of crap from the Carolina Panthers. And by God, I am glad that we are celebrating my wife's birthday this week, and we celebrated yesterday by going out and playing a round of golf. I didn't have to sit and watch that crap.
What did you do? What kind of bad juju did you put on the Panthers in your pregame show yesterday? The first one of the season.
Yeah.
And I thought that you being at Dave & Buster's, getting the season started, Dave Canales, I thought that maybe we'd see a decent performance. I don't know what you did, what you ate, what you wore, but don't do that again because that didn't work. Listen, the ground game, the run game was non-existent. And let's just put it frank. Bryce Young was horrible. 13 of 30, a QBR of 32.8 Diesel. That in the NFL, and I cannot wait for Overreaction Monday at 5 o'clock today. But that QBR in the NFL, that's rough. I don't know at this point. Here's what's sad. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know what the answer is. I know it's the very first week of the season, and we can't just knee-jerk reaction and say the season's completely a wash. However, how do you seriously back up what Dave Canales said in that audio that you just had? How do you find bright spots? Because, Diesel, that looked worse than last year.
Yeah.
That's what's bad.
The only bright spot is that your punter got some work. He seems to be gelling well with his long snapper. Everything there seems to be running smoothly. I mean, no phase of the game looked good for the Carolina Panthers call. On that first touchdown for Derek Carr, I don't know if you saw this. He ran the ball from the right hash all the way to the numbers on the outside before anyone from the Carolina Panthers bothered to pass rush him. And if Derek Carr had any wheels whatsoever, he would have run the ball in himself from about the 20-yard line. He ended up throwing – he ran all the way to his right, all the way to the numbers, and then threw back across the middle of the field and caught his wide receiver directly underneath the goal. I mean, it was horrible. Nothing the Carolina Panthers wanted to do actually happened. They threw the ball 31 times and they ran it 20 times. And that is not complimentary football, Dave. That is not what you said you wanted to do, Dave. You didn't run the football, Dave. You said you wanted to run the football, Dave. That's not what you did.
And to make matters worse, and I mean way worse, Derek Brown is now hurt.
Oh, God, you had to remind me.
Maybe done for the season.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But if yesterday couldn't get any worse than it already did, oh, by the way, one of your best players on defense is done.
Yeah.
That's
meniscus
not good.
injury. Yeah. Tom Pelissero reported that this morning that, the surgery that he's going to get will determine how much time he's going to miss. I mean, you got to think at minimum half the season. I know how long. I mean, like these doctors are wizards now. Like they can basically insert something the size of a little sewing needle, but that's got an instrument on the end of it that can do a job. And like, it's crazy what they can do. But it's going to take a large chunk of time for Derek Brown to get back.
You mentioned the turnovers, and having 3 turnovers, that's not going to win you games in the NFL. However, the biggest concern for me yesterday, besides the score, 47-10, the biggest concern is the offensive line and run game. And I know Bryce Young was horrible, but they could not run the football, right?
We should have a wheel. You know those like spinning wheels? We should have one of those, and on each section it's going to say Bryce Young, O-line, run game,
just
pass
spin
protection. Just spin it.
Well,
that's going
right.
to screw up the most this week.
That's true. 2, the number 2, not 1, not 3, but 2, Diesel. Why is 2 important? On the ground yesterday, the Carolina Panthers were able to muster together 2 first downs. 2! Like, how bad is that? You can't even rush for more than 2 first downs in an NFL football game with an NFL offensive line. Miles Sanders was not good. The offensive line, again, it seems like you, to your point, spin the wheel. It's bad. Like, if there were bright spots and this was a close game, there would be hope. Adam Thielen, once again, we talked about it. He was the leading receiver. That's not good. And talking about 2023, this is exactly what the Carolina Panthers were trying to do the opposite of in 2024. And it looked in one game, I know it's one game, it looked as if they have majorly regressed.
Well, and here's the tough part about, and we're seeing this more and more. I get it. It's to add intrigue to the beginning of the season. We're seeing divisional games early. So now the Carolina Panthers are in a hole in the division. Not that any of us have any real belief that they would be able to challenge for the division, but let's just say they get it together by week 5 or 6 of the season. I don't know when they just play the meat of their division games there, but they get it together a third of the way through the season. All of a sudden, you're in a hole, and you have a really hard time digging your way out of that hole. I mean, Bryce Young was overthrowing receivers left and right on that first interception. Somehow he overthrew 2 guys and got picked. He overthrew a guy crossing from right to left, a little bit shallower. He overthrew the second guy who was crossing left to right a little bit deeper, and then he just threw it right into the hands of an intercepting safety.
I'll even go a step further than you. You said if they don't get it together by 5 or 6, they'll be in a hole in the division. Diesel, I'm now struggling, based off of what I saw yesterday, I'm now struggling to find a win. That's how bad.
Come on. That's rough.
Week 10, New York Giants. I mean, right now, honestly, are they, yes or no? Are they beating the Chargers?
If that happened, no, they're not beating the Chargers.
Raiders, Bengals. Bengals didn't look good. Chicago, Atlanta. Atlanta didn't look great.
Chicago didn't look good either.
They didn't look great, no.
I mean, Caleb Williams' fingernail paint looked pretty solid.
I just have no idea how many. You know, you and I did a segment, I don't know, June, July, on when the Carolina Panthers would get their first win of the season. And we even asked David Newton of ESPN, could they triple it from 2 to 9?
2 to 6.
2 to 6, sorry. 2 to 6. 6? Where are 6 wins on this schedule?
Yeah.
Where do you see that?
Diddy and I were going through the schedule yesterday on the Carolina Kickoff Show, which, by the way, we're going to be out there again on Sunday at 11 a.m. Love to see you, Tolo, swing by, grab some beers. Lots of fantastic food there. But, you know, I was going down this schedule, Cole, and I saw 8, possibly 9 winnable games, not necessarily wins, but winnable games on this schedule. And, man, I got to take a hard look at that. And it's probably going to reduce down to 4. I don't see, you know, with especially with that kind of performance. One data point, things could change. It's a first year of a rookie head coach. Really, honestly, let's be real. This is Bryce Young's rookie year because he had a bunch of crap coaching him last year, a bunch of bums. So consider this his first year in the NFL. First year with potentially a competent OC and a competent head coach. We think. But, hey, have you ever heard that phrase, Cole, everybody gets promoted past the level of competence? Like, you do a great job, you climb the ladder, boom, all of a sudden you're over your head.
Like Dak?
Well, possibly. He's not over his head. He's swimming in cash today with that massive contract he had come down. There's so many stories to start the NFL day yesterday. Yeah. It's hard to even know where to start. Dak got paid. Tyreek got arrested. Yeah. It was a wild day in the NFL.
419 on the text line chimes in, which you can do, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. 419 says, I thought the Panthers had hit rock bottom, but Sunday was horrible. Made the Giants look salvageable by comparison. Mike Main said, and now, all caps, Derek Brown is hurt. Yeah, you're right, Mike Main. That doesn't help.
I just wonder, is Brock Vandegrift planning on going to the NFL this year? Ooh. Because the Carolina Panthers might need an upgrade.
God. You think that'd be up?
You know what his QBR was yesterday on Saturday?
20?
No.
Lower. No way.
Lower. Yeah. It's no lower.
Oh.
Lower.
6.
Lower.
No, there's negative.
It can't be negative. It can't be negative.
You're kidding me.
1.5. How do you have a 1.5 QBR when you play virtually the whole game?
What do you have, 3 completions, something like that?
It was so ugly. I mean, shout out. We're going to get into this later on in the show. We're going to talk South Carolina Gamecocks. We're going to talk Clemson Tigers. But South Carolina held them to 4 punts and 2 turnovers on downs in the first half. Wow.
They did. We'll get to it.
What a dominant performance from them.
510 says, I was incredibly impressed by the team punting. I also think they handled the coin toss well. That's very well said. 809 chimes in on the text line. As a Vikings fan, ego knows all about frustration. all I can say after Sunday is congratulations, Panthers, on securing the number 1 pick next draft.
The question is, what are we going to call? Like, what are we going to nickname the race to the bottom? Don't win for Quinn. Let it all go to heck for Beck. How about that?
I think don't win for Quinn. I can get behind that.
Don't win for Quinn. Yeah, I mean,
he looked pretty good Saturday,
and I do want to get into that later on into the show as well. With the way they looked, there's a very good chance they're going to be in that conversation for the number 1 overall pick. Do you really move on from a number 1 pick that fast and go after a Quinn Ewers or a Carson Beck? Please don't. This would be such a Dave Tepper thing to do. Please don't screw up and go after Shadur Sanders just because he would get you a lot of press.
Oh, God.
Right? That'd be like actually putting Tim Tebow on your roster to play tight end.
Oh, God.
It's not going to work out the way that you think it will. But it just seems like something he might do, right?
So, Diesel, where do you stand? Because you do have the pregame show every Sunday, and I feel bad for you. But where do you stand after 1 week? Again, it was not pretty. It was 47-10. But are you more on the side of hit the panic button, or are you more on the side of, hey, it's week 1, let's at least give them a few weeks?
I mean, you have to be on the side of it's week 1. You got to give them a few weeks.
Why?
You have to, because panicking at this point doesn't do you any good, right? You gotta do what you can to see if Bryce Young can actually develop into a serviceable quarterback. You can't go and fire sale because you don't have anything to sell, right? So, I mean, at this point, you can't say it's time to shut it down after week 1, but truthfully, if you're in a position where at the end of the season you can go get a number 1 overall pick, if you really genuinely believe, and this will be on Dave Canales, if you genuinely believe that Bryce Young can be a good quarterback in the NFL, you've got your pick of the best at any position you could want. And apparently this year's O-line draft is super deep with some real talent there. The edge rushers are going to be super elite this year.
Yeah, you need all of the above.
You kind of need everything. And God, just don't do something stupid and trade the pick away, would you? I mean, don't do that. Just sit where you are and get somebody good, please.
It's sad. And listen, to answer my own question, I'm not hitting the panic button right now. However, there's no way. And you can go back and watch it again. You can go back and watch it a third time. And I don't care what Dave Canales says.
I don't even want to do that.
Well, that's true. There's no way you can legitimately, Diesel, find bright spots. That's the problem. Like, if you find bright spots, that's all fine and dandy. But if you can't even find one bright spot, that's not a good sign. And honestly, I don't know, even if you went back and watched it again yesterday, I don't know that you'd find one bright spot. Tiger Pal Rachel says, or ask rather, is Tepper the worst owner ever in all of professional sports?
He's certainly making a hell of a case for it, right?
He's trying to be.
I think this year, if Dave Tepper, legitimate answer to your question, if Dave Tepper has another ugly incident, I think Roger Goodell should have no choice but to move on from him or to force him out. The other owners can do that. I don't know that they've done it. What, Snyder? Did they force Dan Snyder out?
In a way.
Yeah, I mean, they could do what they can to pressure him to sell the team, but why would they do that? He's making money. That's the whole point, is to make money.
You know what's sad? And again, I'm not a Carolina Panthers fan, but I really do, Diesel. I really do empathize. I went to 3 or 4 games last year, and I saw how empty the stadium was. I saw how mad and upset the fans were, right? Mm-hmm. I saw just how hard it was to pull for that fan base and for that franchise. What I really do look at, and the areas that I really do feel sorry for the Carolina Panthers are their fan base. Because the fan base themselves, they don't deserve this.
So they're at home next week hosting the Chargers.
Oh.
It's some of the best weather. I mean, this is actual still good weather part of the season.
Sure.
I haven't looked ahead to see what the weather's supposed to be next Sunday. But assuming it was like this past week, beautiful weather, I would be shocked if that stadium, which holds, 75,000-ish people? 75,000. I'd be shocked if there's more than 50,000 there. Absolutely shocked.
That's not good.
No, it's not.
That
not for
is
your
not
season
good.
opener at home.
Not good at all. So we'll see. You might want to send your thoughts and prayers to the Carolina Panthers organization. It's getting rough.
You might want to send a drink down the bar to me because I have to cover this team all season long.
Clemson, App State played on Saturday. There were 1 or 2 points scored.
I think Clemson only played on Saturday. I don't think App State actually showed up.
You and I were there. We'll get to it. Our thoughts, your thoughts as well. 71307. Phone lines open as well. 844-FAN-PHONE. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate.
With Cole, Bryson, and Diesel in the
Diesel, if I would have told you on Friday, as you and I were sitting right here in the Ingles Markets studios, if I would have told you Diesel, Cade Klubnik's going to get benched at halftime, what would you have said? Would you have
I would have said,
worried?
man, I feel pretty good about that. If you had told me App State scored 20 points and Cade Klubnik got benched at halftime, I would say I think we had a pretty good chance to win that football game.
Maybe won the game, right?
Yeah.
However, he did get benched. It was just not for the same reason you may be thinking. 24 of 26, 378 yards. He averaged 14.5 yards per pass, 5 touchdowns, a QBR of 99.6 on Saturday night. Diesel, you and I were there, a packed house at first. The crowd did dwindle down a good bit as the game got out of hand. You know, there's a lot to get to, a lot to break down, and as well as your reaction from the Tolo, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. I think it's easy to say that no one saw that coming.
I tell you, I felt good about that game up until the third offensive play for Clemson. You know what I liked about it is because call number 1 was a basically no gain to the flat pass from Cade Klubnik. Fans started booing. It sounded like they were booing. I couldn't tell if they were booing the play call. I couldn't tell. I don't remember who caught that pass. You know, maybe he's got a last name that kind of sounds like a ooh. So they say his name like John Booth, like that kind of thing. And then the second play was a Phil Maffa run up the gut that got stuffed. And I was like, oh, App's defense came to play. Clemson's offense going to look real vanilla today. And then, well, we all know what happened. That 80-yard, 76-yard touchdown bomb to Bryant Wesco Jr. And I was like, this is going to be a rough day.
Well, that bomb, that third play of the game, I think everyone in the stadium, even in the press box where we were, I think everyone just kind of looked at each other and was like, wow. Like that came out of nowhere. Third play of the game, to your point. And, you know, if you would have told me Cade Klubnik had a really good game, I could believe that. But after last week, after watching what happened with Georgia and Clemson, Diesel, when I watched the first half, it almost looked as if Clemson's offense just came out pissed off and mad, and they played that way. You know, it was a night game, and I believe that helps in terms of getting the crowd involved. You know, it's not hot. It's not a noon game. Weird things happen at noon. But they just looked like, even Phil Maffa in the rushing game, the offensive line, so many bright spots. They just looked like they were playing mad. And again, I know 2 different opponents, Georgia, App State, 2 different opponents, but it was a statement win for Clemson.
Yeah, and I plan on asking this question, and we can discuss it here and get our own thoughts out. I plan on asking this question of David Hood coming up at 4:20. David Hood of TigerNet. Were a lot of the play calls from Dabo Swinney in the second half necessary? Was running up the score the way that they did necessary? Now, I know a vast majority that was at 35 points in the first quarter. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the second half when Clemson went for it on 4th down 3 times. Only one of them actually scored a touchdown. That's the one that was 4th and goal inside the 5 or 4th and 1 at the 5 or whatever it was. But the question is, was that necessary? In the sense that, not that it was personal, not that Dabo was trying to put Sean Clark in his place, not that just was Dabo trying to reset the national narrative about Clemson this season, right? And we all know that Clemson is now behind the 8 ball with the way they performed against Georgia. Does Dabo feel like he needs to run the score up on teams this year to ensure that they get in no matter what happens over the course of the season? So if they're sitting there in the ACC title game and they lose, or if they don't even make the ACC title game, do they need to go out there and drop 70 on everyone to try to get into the playoff?
You know, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I will say, I don't think that there was a narrative of trying to run the score up. And I know they did go for it a few times. You know, they scored 10 points in the second half. They scored 35 in the first quarter, 21 in the second quarter. I understand that the going forward on 4th downs, maybe I look at that.
But when you're up 55-20 at the time, what's the point in going for it on 4th down at the App State 45?
Yeah, and again, I don't
other than to run up the score. There's literally no other reason to do that.
Well, I would say yes, it may look as if it's running up the score. However, I do think there's some truth to trying to get guys who have not been in the game at the beginning of the game, trying to get guys in different situations to see how you grade guys on a fourth down or a third down, a very important third down. And again, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. I don't know the reason, but I do know that, it was a game that App State, their defense, I don't know that anyone anticipated App State's defense being as bad as they were on Saturday night. We all thought that this might be a trap game. This might be a game where Clemson has to really buckle down, right? Because we thought that after what we saw against Georgia, maybe it's going to be close. However, the biggest thing that I took away, Diesel, was the play calling. Getting guys involved early, getting receivers involved very early in the game, getting them confidence. And Kaye Klubnik talked about it after the game. Once you get that confidence going, they felt like they were unstoppable. I understand that it was an incredible win for Clemson, 66-20 over App. My question is, though, you look that good on Saturday. Your offensive play calling was that good. What the heck happened the week before in terms of offensive play calling, execution? And I know it's two different opponents. I get that. However, as a Clemson fan, I talked to a lot of Clemson fans over the weekend. There's obviously excitement because you score 66 points. You should be excited. However, and by the way, you broke a ton of records. However, there are frustrated fans that feel as if you score 66 points the week before, you should have been able to get on the scoreboard and score a touchdown.
Yeah, and I don't know how much truth there is to it's a fun joke to say, oh, Dabo finally let Garrett Riley start calling plays. He was calling plays all last year. He was calling plays all last year. I don't want to hear that. Maybe Dabo Swinney has a heavier hand in the first drive, that they script that first drive out. A lot of teams do, right? Maybe he has a heavier hand in that, but you don't hire a Garrett Riley from another power program to handcuff him.
Correct.
So there were clearly issues going on with this offense all of last year and against Georgia that I don't know if they just figured it out this past week. I don't know if it was scheme. I don't know if it was talent or if it was just App's defense sucked that badly.
Well, I think Kaye Klubnik put it best because he was asked about that. And he said, there's so many factors that go in. And he said last week against Georgia, he may put a lot of that on himself. Kaye Klubnik was talking about the Georgia game and why the offense wasn't clicking. And he said the exact same thing that you talked about just now. Look, it's not just the offense. It's the offensive line, the protection, the scheme, the play calling, how the receiver – there's so many factors that go into it. And it looked as if Saturday night, every single factor, every single piece of the offense was clicking on all cylinders. And to Cade's point, when we talked to him post-game, if one or two of those factors, Diesel, is not there, if you're off in one or two areas, and oh, by the way, you're playing Georgia, there's a lot of error that's going to take place, is my point. There's not a lot of room for error when you're playing a team like Georgia, and if you're not clicking on all cylinders. You and I talked about it in the press box. I wonder if that game would have been any different if App State was the first game of the year. They looked like they got their confidence. Against Georgia, they looked as if they had no confidence. And that's a big part of success. It's not everything, but it is a big part of success. 712 total yards, 460 through the air. They ran the ball for 252 yards. I still think App State's going to have a fine year. I don't know if you, being an App State grad, I don't know if you've hit the panic button or anything, but I'm just telling you, I think they'll be okay. It just looked as if it was a very bad night.
Well, Madcraft asked the question, how good is App State's defense? Where are they ranked? Last year, they were ranked number 75 in the country, so middle of the road. Not a great defense, but a middle-of-the-road defense. Where they are through 2 games, they are number 124.
Well, those stats,
out of 134. Yeah, the Clemson game stats certainly really skew that thing in a crazy direction. No, there's a lot of panic from App State fans after the game. A lot of really hurt and pissed off App State fans who made the drive down, who came from all over the state of North Carolina to be at that game. And they look at it like that is not the way App State plays football. Again, if you told me that App scored 20 points against Clemson's starting offense, and I understand that some of those points were second half garbage time points against second teamers. If you told me they'd scored 20 points in this game, I would have said, all right, maybe they were in it, right? They were in it late and had a chance. But, App has a history of playing really, really well in those types of games, and that was the biggest blowout App State has suffered since, I want to say it was like 2011 when App was still FCS and they got beat 66-13 at Virginia Tech. I was at that game too.
Really?
Oh, that was not a fun one to be at. And I think the cannon that Virginia Tech shoots whenever they score a touchdown ran out of ammo in that game.
Man.
It was rough.
No, surely not.
It was rough.
Text from the 384 says Wesco should have been playing snap 1 against Georgia. And texter to the 384, no pushback here. That was one of the things that was talked about a lot. The young guys, the receivers not being on the field. It didn't look like Clemson's best were on the field. Let's see. Texter from the 344 says it was a perfect storm, but I swear Riley finally given the car keys, that offense looked entirely different. I get it. It did look different, but at the same time, you have to evaluate who you're playing. Maybe Georgia's that good. Maybe they are.
Yeah, and there were elements of that game that I certainly expected. I expected Clemson to get push on the offensive line. I expected Phil Maffa to have himself a good day. I didn't expect the secondary to get torched the way that they did. And obviously that is the big factor, right? That is the big change where you had multiple long touchdown throws, and there was that one like 55-yarder that I think was brought down at the 1-yard line. So passing the ball, throwing the ball, which is something we hadn't seen for Cade Klubnik in multiple games. Remember, there were 3 games before that where he did not throw a passing touchdown. And boy, did he make up for it there on the stat sheet. I mean, I did not expect to see App State's secondary get blown away like that.
I did not either. Let's see. Texter from the Tiger Pal Rachel. I'm sorry. Tiger Pal Rachel says that was the offense I wanted to see last week. 422 says maybe it just takes a little time to get Garrett Riley's offensive scheme into the office, and they're finally now able to start opening up the playbook, and the players are actually starting to get it, and they should just get better from here on out.
There's always a combination of having the right personnel to run the scheme you want to run.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
Clemson, we all know. We've talked about them not having the wide receivers that they used to have, not being wide receiver U anymore. And perhaps last year, what Garrett Riley wanted to do, he just didn't have the horses to be able to get the separation that he wanted out of his receivers. And so when you can't do that, when you can't get separation, that makes everything more difficult. It's the same thing as having a porous offensive line. When you have a weak offensive line, everything goes to heck, right?
Yeah.
So at least in the passing game, not having receivers that can get any separation, that's a big thing. And perhaps he has that this year.
993 says all caps, move on from the Georgia game, folks. Okay, 993. We'll pretend like it didn't happen.
How about all caps? No, it happened.
It happened.
You cannot forget about it because it happened.
And that's what I was getting to. You can't just pretend like it was a preseason game. In the NFL, you absolutely can move on from preseason games, right? Those mean nothing. However, I don't care what Dabo said. The Georgia game wasn't a preseason game. It counted. It goes against your record. Yeah, move on from it. The players have to move on, right? Learn what you can learn and move on. I get that the players can't just dwell on it forever. However, we can't act like, it didn't happen. Georgia, Clemson, scratch it off the ducket. It's part of the story for this year's Clemson team. Wherever this story goes, however it finishes, Diesel, it's part of the story. Well, and it's going to be looked at in a sore eye, and it should.
Dabo talks about that. He talked about it in his press conferences multiple times last week leading up to that game. He said, something to the effect of, you learn who you are when you're dealing with adversity. Everybody can lead when the sun is shining.
That's right.
Can you lead when it's raining outside? That's what he's talking about. So Texter, I'm sorry that you are embarrassed by that 34-3 loss versus Georgia, but it happened.
I like
it.
This.
It is part of the DNA of this team this year.
The Oculus on YouTube, Diesel, I like this comment. You can't move on from Georgia yet. It's one of two very different data points. If Clemson continues to improve and makes the playoff, how they fare in the playoff will be compared to the Georgia game. Oculus is 100% right.
Yeah. The only things that can get rid of that Georgia game at this point are blowing the doors off of Louisville if Louisville's still good, blowing the doors off of Florida State if Florida State comes back,
Sure.
and then looking crisp in every single game over the course of the season. And then ultimately, the only thing that can wash that taste out of your mouth is beating an SEC team in the college football playoff.
Absolutely.
I hate to tell you, Texter, but you're going to be waiting a long time to move on from that Georgia loss. It just is what it is. A lot of big stuff happening in college football this week, some major storylines, some fun things to talk about. We'll get to that next here on the other side on the Fan Upstate.
Here comes the field goal unit.
Oh, my goodness
Let's
gracious.
go, Mitch Jeter. Yeah, Jeets.
You asked, does he have 63 in him? He's going to need 62. Between the hashes, his career long is 53. You got to be kidding me. With the game on the line, 16-14, Huskies lead. Jeter's on the field between the hashes. This is for the ball game with 5 seconds left. Mitch Jeter, the kick is blocked. Northern Illinois recovers. The clock runs out, and the Huskies have beaten Notre Dame. It's the biggest win in their history.
And down go the Irish.
Woo.
Number 5 takes it on the chin to the NIU Huskies.
I love it. You
God,
and I
it
were
was
watching it in
great.
the press box.
We were, and there's a lot of TVs in the Clemson press box, but none of the TVs were showing that game. And like, this isn't a sports bar, right? Like, you can't just go up and find somebody and be like, hey, could you put the NBC game on that TV right
Somebody
there?
did, by the way, before you got there.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh,
they did.
no.
They did. But I was awkward. It was like, oh, okay.
Somebody went and asked,
Yes.
but they didn't put it on.
It was South Carolina they asked for.
Oh,
And
my
I get
gosh.
it, but it was super
Wow.
awkward.
So this is right before kickoff, Cole. It's like 10 minutes before kickoff at Clemson. You and I are in the press box, and I'm texting my wife. I'm like, hey, I need to log in for Peacock. Like, we were watching the game on the Gamecast on the ESPN app, which you can't get any good information on that. It's slow. They take a long time to update some things.
It's the guy to our left's fault. Remember the stat guy from New York? It's his fault.
We're like, we should have this guy on. And then he started cussing a lot. We're like, no, we should not have this guy on. Even though he's absolutely hilarious and fascinating to talk to. So I'm able to get the Notre Dame NIU game on my phone with like a minute and a half to play. And here it is, my phone sitting on the table on a kickstand, and there's like 15 people standing around leaning in watching this game, and we're all having an absolute ball watching Notre Dame take it on the chin to Northern Illinois. Man, congratulations to the Huskies and what they pulled off. And let's be real, you look at this stat sheet, and we only watched the last minute and a half of that game, but looking at the stat sheet, Northern Illinois just flat out beat them. They just flat out beat them. Ethan Hampton, quarterback of Northern Illinois, 198 yards and a touchdown. Riley Leonard, 163 yards, no touchdowns. Rushing the football, 190 yards for the team for Northern Illinois, 123 yards for Notre Dame. And it's not like Notre Dame just gave the ball up 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Riley Leonard fumbled the ball once but didn't lose it. Same thing for Northern Illinois. They had a running back fumble the ball one time, but they didn't lose it. So
there are upsets, Diesel, and then there are these type of upsets. Yeah. This is, again, all the credit in the world to NIU.
Absolutely.
However, a horrible loss for Notre Dame. You can't let that happen.
You can't let it happen, Cole, but as many times as I've seen these upsets and been a part of these upsets, it always drives me nuts when people only want to talk about why the supposedly good team lost the football game. You got to talk about why the winning team won the football game. Here's head coach of the NIU Huskies, Thomas Hammock, on the sideline after the game being interviewed, getting emotional. I love hearing this kind of stuff.
NIU's first win against a top 10 opponent ever. And for people who need context, you wore this jersey. It's deep for you. Why?
Yeah. I'm so proud of our kids, the coaches, just everybody. They believed. They believed. And we came here and got it done.
That dude makes you want to run through a wall.
Oh, when I saw that for the very first time, man, I got goosebumps again that time too. But that, like, you talk about story. I saw a video on the internet over the weekend of a guy. It was a daughter filming her dad in the basement, and he went to NIU. And like the emotion, the tears, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And NIU, nobody knows NIU. Nobody even knows their mascot.
They were good about 10 years ago. They were really good about 10 years ago.
And now all of a sudden they're 2-0.
Yep.
You hold Notre Dame to 14 points, and Riley Leonard, man, not good. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Notre Dame got beat by Marshall at home 2 years ago. So there's just something about. I mean, if you're a G5 team, you want to schedule a road upset against a top 10 team, schedule Notre Dame.
I know.
But a lot of big storylines this weekend to get to. Texas absolutely handled Michigan. Oregon State held on to beat Boise State 34-37 in the late game. That one went into overtime. Just a phenomenal football game. And Boise State looks like world beaters right now. Shedeur Sanders threw his offensive line under the bus in the post-game press conference. He asked, hey, how many times did Raiola get touched?
That's the worst.
He was sacked
ever,
6
man.
times in that game. I mean, he's not wrong in the sense that his offensive line is not up to snuff, right?
But you don't say that.
But you don't say that out loud.
And, NFL teams hear that, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be the leader. And, again, I've been very high on Deion in Colorado. And we'll get to this at 5 o'clock in Overreaction Monday. But that was not a good look. I also didn't love him leaving the field early. I don't know if he was injured or what the story or excuse is. But, man, when they lose – they don't lose with class.
Nope.
And that's concerning.
It should be. It should be. And then, of course, the biggest story in the state of South Carolina is that College Game Day is coming to Columbia.
How about it?
How about it? South Carolina hosting LSU. Crow about it, Gamecock fans. I'm surprised our phone lines haven't lit up with Gamecock fans wanting to talk about this game and wanting to talk about the insanity. Now, I assume this is our daily Dewey on the phone. I do recall Dewey saying last week, and I wonder how he's going to change his tune today, but last week, Dewey told us Shane Beamer should be fired.
He did.
Dewey, do you still feel that way?
No, y'all owe Shane Beamer an apology.
What do you owe? You,
Oh,
You
y'all been mean to him.
owe him an apology, Dewey. You say, Dewey, you bringing you back on this show ever again depends on you saying, I was wrong, Shane Beamer, I'm sorry.
I was wrong, and you're wrong too.
You didn't say the second part of that. You said, Shane Beamer, I'm sorry. You didn't say that part.
And Dewey, I picked South Carolina for the record. Dewey?
Yes, you did. So I'm not mad at you.
Well, are you going to finish the statement or not?
But they came to play.
Come on, Dewey, spit out the words. I was wrong. Shane Beamer, I'm sorry.
Shane Beamer, I'm sorry.
There you go.
He did
We
it.
love you, Dewey.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Speaking of South Carolina, we'll get into the game. South Carolina, Kentucky, fantastic performance by the Gamecocks. Your thoughts, phone lines open, all and more next. Sometimes you read text and you just laugh during the break. I mean, come on, people. I'm going to read it. I shouldn't, but I'm going to read it anyways because it was not my words. It was texted in. 993 text in talking about college game day in Columbia. Texter says Murdaugh should be the guest picker. Is that too soon, I think, right? You can't say that.
Ow.
But the texter did say that.
Can he Skype in from prison?
A Zoom, first ever college game day Zoom guest picker. Why are we doing it on Zoom? Well, he's in Savannah, Georgia, locked up.
Could you imagine? Bad. Could you imagine making a pick in the LSU South Carolina game, college game day in Columbia, but you're rocking an orange jumpsuit? I mean, beautiful, right?
That's bad, but you're right. Orange jumpsuit, first time ever. Texter, God, I had to read it. It's bad but funny. Texter says Gamecock fans aren't texting in because they realize this Saturday for game day, the whole nation will get to see true Beamer ball. Ooh, shots fired. That comes from Tolo, not JD.
How about that?
That is shots fired there, man. Greenville Gamecock says, just got off work. How about them Gamecocks, Cole? Ride with me again on the upset over LSU. Greenville Gamecock, we appreciate you listening. I'm not going to give my pick away on Monday, but guess what?
Ooh.
I'm feeling good about this team.
We just got some inside scoop.
Uh-oh.
Who needs FlightAware when you got Dan B telling you that he is flying LSU to South Carolina and back after the game?
I didn't see that on the thing. I'm sorry,
Dan B will
DB.
be LSU's pilot.
You're kidding me.
Are you
DB,
serious, Dan?
You're not pulling our leg here. I'll be pulling.
Are you serious? Are they going to be? Are you going to make them intentionally half an hour late for their flight?
Oh, that'd be. We got to take a detour. Why are we going, Brian Kelly's? Why are we going in circles? That's fantastic. Fantastic. DB, that's awesome, though, man. He said dead serious. That is so freaking cool, man. Being the pilot, flying them. How about that, y'all? You got a Tolo.
Yeah.
Tolo DB right here in the upstate who is a pilot.
Flight from LSU to South Carolina is probably what? An hour and 45? 2 hours at most?
I was going to guess
Dan,
hour 45.
I'm going to need you a couple times during that flight to just take the stick and go. Whoop,
whoop. Maybe 2 hours.
Give him a little jolt, you know.
Maybe 2 hours, and man, get to see Brian Kelly. I hope he doesn't get mad and take it out on the plane, pull the red handle. Or
how does Brian Kelly say the word airplane? Airplane.
Airplane.
So happy to be in this airplane.
The Oculus says, Dan B, please let us know the status of Brian Kelly's accent before the game. That's great stuff. Speaking of Greenville Gamecock, who asked if I was going to ride with him again on the LSU getting taken down by the Gamecocks pick. Diesel, the upset picks challenge this past weekend. I was going to quit if I didn't hit this week. You and I were both in an interesting spot. We'll get to yours first. So I was driving to Clemson, and this isn't safe, but I had YouTube TV on the dash, like on my phone. So I was watching your game. The only reason I was watching is you said you had Arkansas, and they were up 14. So I had to turn it on, and what a blunder of a game that was.
Screwed up the second half so badly. Good God, that's twice.
Bad.
That's twice in 3 weeks of making these picks that I've had the winner up until the very end of the game. And then they snatch victory away from defeat.
You know what's bad? That game went overtime, and Mr. Mullet Man, almost found the way to give it away. God. I mean, he comes back down 14, ties the game. Oklahoma State has first and goal, a couple penalties. Next thing you know, they're kicking a field goal from the 50. They finally get the field goal, and then Arkansas goes. It was a really good ending. I know for your sake, you were not happy with that, and I do feel bad for you because I thought you and I were both going to get on the board. I did get on the board. South Carolina. Let's get to the Gamecocks, Diesel. Go to Lexington in the SEC on the road anytime, as I said last week, anytime you go on the road in the SEC other than Nashville, Tennessee at Vandy, it's a big win. South Carolina goes on the road Saturday and knocks off Kentucky. Not only did they knock them off, Diesel, South Carolina defensively was flat dominant on the road in Lexington. What a performance.
Yeah, it was just flat out dominance. I mean, it helps when you have Brock Vandergriff calling plays on the opposite side of the field.
Yeah.
I mean, I told you before, a 1.5 QBR. I mean, that's just absurd. And they only took him out of the game in the fourth quarter.
His
that's
stat
something
line
that blows me away, especially in hindsight. Now, I know that the drive in question ended with an interception. But when they put the backup quarterback in, he actually moved the team down the field very efficiently. And the game was pretty much out of hand at that point, but very efficiently moved that team down the field. And like, why would you not put him in earlier in the game when Vandergriff is clearly struggling?
You should have known, though, Diesel. If somebody has the last name that almost says Vandy, they're not going to be any good. Brock Vandegrift, last Saturday, 3 of 10. Again, this is the total game stats. Diesel, I don't know that I've ever read stats where a quarterback was 3 of 10 for 30 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Like you said, a QBR below 2, which is pitiful. South Carolina gets a lot of credit for that. Their defense, again, on Saturday, Diesel, was absolutely phenomenal. You know, you and I talked about the game last week. We believed in the Gamecocks defense. Mm-hmm. We did not know if the offense could put up 31 points. I didn't think they could. They scored 7 in the first, 3 in the second, a huge third quarter, 14 points, and then 7 again in the fourth. The defense led the way and allowed the offense to be in good spots. Lenore Sellers was fantastic, 11 of 15. They did not throw the ball a ton, only 159 yards. He did throw 1 pick, but 2 touchdowns. I thought that, again, when you look at the stat sheet, you don't see that stat sheet and think, oh, wow, what a game by Lenoris. However, when you watch the game, he played a really good game on Saturday.
He played a very, very efficient football game. And then when you play complementary football and your defense is playing excellent the same way that your offense is playing really well, that's how you get big-time wins on the road in the SEC. I mean, the drive chart for Kentucky looks like a lot of people's love lives, just stop after stop after stop after stop. 4 straight punts and 2 straight turnovers on down in the first half for the Kentucky Wildcats. Completely inept because of what South Carolina was doing to them.
Mazio Bennett from right here in Greenville looked good. 3 receptions, 63 yards, averaged 21 receptions. Or 21 yards per reception, a touchdown. Also, Joshua Simon had a reception. When you look at the team, they were what you just said. They were very efficient. Now, South Carolina, one area they have to be better, especially against LSU. And we'll get into the LSU game as the week goes on. But they were not good on third down, just 3 of 10. However, the defense continued to put them in position after position to be successful. Kentucky turned the ball over twice. That doesn't help. Diesel, I know I picked South Carolina to go on the road and win in my upset picks challenge. I didn't think it would be 31-6, though.
Madcraft puts out a very good point here. If you ask the question, who gains more confidence in their team this week, the answer should be South Carolina.
See, I disagree with that. I disagree there. I think it's a good question, Madcraft. I appreciate you asking it. Again, if you ask the question, who gained more confidence in their team after the week, the answer would be South Carolina, not Clemson. Madcraft, I completely disagree. And I'll tell you why. Clemson's offense was non-existent against Georgia. And not to get down that rabbit hole again, but they come out and put up 700-plus yards. I would argue that there's more confidence in this Clemson offense today than there has ever been under Garrett Riley in the year and 2 games. I think there's a ton of confidence in this Clemson offense.
Well, the only thing that I lack confidence now when it comes to the South Carolina Gamecocks is the decision-making of somebody at ESPN for leaving that the noon kickoff on Saturday. The hell are you doing? Flex that game to at least 3:30. Put it in a primetime slot. What the hell are you doing?
No, that's bad. That's bad. And then what's even worse is you see today they announced that South Carolina Akron's a 7:30 game. And it's like, what are we doing here? And I know that you have to look at all the games, but you're playing LSU college game day,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody has to get up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. to get there in time, right? You do.
Yeah.
In Columbia, if you want to get there and tailgate.
It's a bad move.
And then you're playing at noon. No. Rocket Sanders, Diesel had a good game. 13 carries, 54 yards, 1 touchdown. Again, I like what Mazio Bennett did on Saturday. You have to think for a guy like Lenora Sellers, Diesel, you have to think that after the performance against Old Dominion, where he did not look great, right? You would have to think that him going on the road in the SEC and putting up 31 points and beating Kentucky. Yes, it's Kentucky. It's not Bama. It's not Georgia. But you would believe that that would be a huge confidence boost for the QB1, Lenora Sellers. I'm not saying they go into Columbia or come home and host LSU and beat them. However, when you look at Old Dominion versus Kentucky, Lenora Sellers looked much better on Saturday.
Well, you got to give the defense credit there for putting it away with that pick 6 there in the fourth quarter. But, you subtract the points from that. Now you're talking about a 24-6 football game, and you look at the stat lines. And so now you compare what happened statistically to the 24 points the offense scored in that football game, Cole. I mean, it's not as if, and I promise you, I'm not trying to pee in anybody's cornflakes, but when you look at the team stats here, it's not like South Carolina blew them away offensively.
Sure.
It's not like it was this just insanely dominant offensive performance. You only put up 252 yards of total offense. 252 is not going to win you a whole lot of games in the SEC. It's not. But when you compare that and you add that to the fact that the defense was playing lights out for the majority of that game, for the entirety of the first half, that's how you end up dominating a Kentucky team that, looked really good in the previous week. They scored 31 points against Southern Miss in a shortened game in week number 1. So Kentucky could score.
Sure.
Kentucky could really score, and the defense deserves a ton of credit.
So I don't push back on what you said. I will say this, though. South Carolina's MO in 2024, their team, the book on the Gamecocks, Diesel, it may be a team that's led by the defense, and the offense does enough. I'm not saying the defense leads them
That's
to
all
go.
it takes.
It is. I'm not saying the defense leads them to go beat LSU and Bama and Georgia. But I'm saying when you look at Shane Beamer and where he was, you and I talked about it last week on this show, they needed that game. Shane Beamer needed that game so bad. And you talk about, we asked Stephen Garcia.
Dewey wanted him fired.
Well, he did. The reality is, though, if you go up there and you lose, most Gamecock fans want him fired, right? They do. You go up there and lose that game, South Carolina fans are not happy with Shane Beamer. However, when you look at Shane, 4th season, needing wins, needing to make a bowl game, if you don't win that one, you're probably not making a bowl. You still have that A&M game at home. A&M looks decent. They look like a good football team, not a great football team. They look okay. But you needed that one, and you didn't squeak by. You went up there, and you did something, Diesel, that I haven't seen South Carolina do in a while, and that was dominate. You were the underdog, right? You were a big underdog, and you didn't squeak by. You went up there, and you imposed your will defensively. I think this South Carolina defense, and Dylan Stewart, did you see the play? He had 3 guys on him, and he blew past all 3 of them. That kid probably is the best at his position in the entire country. I think that gives you, if you're a South Carolina Gamecock fan, I think that gives you a ton of hope for the season.
So looking at the early spread on this game, LSU favored by 7 on the road in Columbia, noon kickoff. Totals looking at 50.5. That means Vegas thinks both of these teams are going to score in the 20s.
I think they're
looking at a score something like 29-21 or something like that, 28-22. That's what Vegas thinks.
I would still go under.
You go under.
I
You think
know.
South Carolina could put together a second just insane defensive performance in a row? I mean, I know Dylan Stewart can. That dude's an animal.
I'll tell you this, the reason behind it, Diesel, I don't trust Brian Kelly. I just don't trust the guy. And maybe I'm proven wrong. Maybe LSU comes out and lights him up. But let me ask you this. we're talking about LSU. If I told you, I know you and I don't love the noon kick, but would you not agree that maybe the Gamecocks have a better chance of winning at noon? Sneak it up on LSU.
Well, the only thing there is maybe you take advantage of the time change. You get that early morning
they
thing
traveled
where to them it's going to be 11 a.m. I mean, I'm not saying it's some massive benefit. I think it's going to be a problem for the California teams that are flying east to ACC games and the California teams that are flying east to Big Ten games. An hour is not really going to affect this team. But I mean, just like what if, just that little bit of I'm tired, I'm not awake yet, my body thinks it's a different time of day. I mean, crazy things have happened. What am I going to call this one this week? Probably not.
Texter says great defense and good enough offense to win a lot of games. I think that's true. I think it is. That
is very, very true. When we come back, we talk to David Hood of TigerNet talking about that Clemson blowout of App State. That'll be next. 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. It hurts voiceover of Rob Brown talking about that big win over Appalachian State on Saturday. Yeah, it hurts when your team, a team that you grew up liking, kicks the ever-loving dog snot out of a team and the program and the school that you went to. It's not fun to watch. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. I had the Oculus calling off the dog, so to speak, tweeting out to all of the Clemson fan base to not give me too hard of a time because, in his words, I had been very complimentary and I tried to be very fair over the course of the week, telling Clemson fans they ought to be taking caution against Clemson. They ought to be, or against App State. They ought to be looking at that team as if they could actually jump up and beat you. As we go live now on the phone to David Hood of TigerNet joining us here on the Fan Upstate. David, I'm sure you've read the tweets. You've heard the jokes. Dabo finally let Garrett call the plays for a game. I mean, the ultimate big question that everybody wants to know is where was that offense against Georgia? Were they trying to run that same kind of offense against Georgia and they just couldn't get it off the ground? Or in your mind, did you see totally different schemes in those two matchups?
Well, yeah, I saw more middle of the field type stuff. This week, somebody had, said, hey, where was the post? Where was the dig against Georgia? Where was the motion? Where were the different formations? Where was that stack wide receiver set? It looked like a different offense.
He is David Hood of TigerNet.com. David joins us every Monday at 4:20 to talk Clemson Tigers football. From the very get-go, when you got Bryant Wesco Jr. involved, that third play of the game, David, it seemed as if this offense came out mad. They came out with something to prove, a little bad taste in their mouth. Did you get the sense of Clemson on Saturday night really trying to push a narrative of we're still Clemson?
Well, maybe not only just trying to push a narrative, but to try and find a spark somewhere and find something that works. I'd written earlier in the week, this is an offense without an identity, has been without an identity for a few years now, unless you want to call it a tractor pull identity, putting long drives together. And but here's the funny thing is that Kaye was telling people after the game, we tried to tell you, we didn't show it against Georgia. It didn't work out against Georgia. We didn't execute. But this is what we've seen all camp. This is when you heard that we were beating the defense in the scrimmages, that was all true. This is what we saw. And for whatever reason, I'm going to call it a different play call set, whatever. Didn't show up against Georgia, but he said, this is what we can do. And you're going to see it all year long. And so I think that, there was, let's come out and show everybody this is going to be who we are, not what you saw against Georgia.
We got David Hood of TigerNet joining us here on the Fan Upstate. David, Clemson went for it on fourth down 3 times in the second half. One of them was a 4th and 4 from the App 5 with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. They ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive, pushing it to 63-20. They went for it twice more in the fourth quarter on fourth down, once with Fazina, once with Pierman, both throwing the ball on fourth down. Did Dabo give any explanation as to why? I mean, it felt a little bit to me like running up the score. I understand you want to put your guys into certain scenarios, but do you think there was any kind of an element, as Cole kind of alluded to there, of trying to create a narrative and maybe put up big numbers to look good for a committee down the road?
Yeah, maybe there's a small part of that, but in talking to people, it was more trying to get Christopher Vazina snaps. And if you got to go for it on fourth down, you're going to do that. He really didn't play last year, was going to have limited snaps Saturday. And so it was kind of a win for App State situation, because Clemson could have kicked a field goal there a couple times. Could have just added 3 points and walked away with it. But Dabo kind of wanted to force Vazina to make plays. They want film on him. And, I think App State understands that. And so you made him pull it one time and he scores the touchdown. You just want to see, as many reps as you can, because he hadn't gotten a lot. And with the schedule that they have going forward, hosting NC State, then Stanford, got to go on the road to Florida State, at Wake Forest, may not be a whole lot of snaps there either. So you get snaps for your backup quarterback while you can.
David, it was a weird atmosphere in the press conference room on Sunday morning. almost 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m. when we finally heard from Dabo. The reason I say it was strange and weird is because, Clemson got the win. However, when Dabo Swinney came into the presser, he talked about DeAndre Overton and loss for Clemson. I don't know, in your time covering Clemson, as long as you have been, I don't know if you can recall just a moment that's as tough for Dabo Swinney to have to go through.
No, nothing quite like that. Obviously, there's been times, we had the interview with Tony Elliott right after Tyshawn Dye passed away from the drowning, and that was really tough. And that was tough on Coach Swinney. And, there's been other times, C.J. Fuller, when he passed away from the blood clot, where there's, kind of been those tough moments in talking to coaches, but nothing right after a game like that. And so it was a little bit of a different moment. And, and you understand that what Dabo was saying was the truth, man. DeAndre was liked by everybody. And this is a kid who was talented enough to have gone somewhere else, to pack up his bags at Clemson and go, you know what, I'm not staying behind these cats anymore. I'm not staying behind the Justin Ross and the T. Higgins and tomorrow. I'm going to go somewhere else and play. And he didn't. He stayed with his teammates, saw it through to the end, won 2 national championships, and never complained. You never heard him one time complain about playing time. And, I remember he told me in an interview one time, I'm just here to help everybody get better. And if that means during the week I need to go over to scout team and play somebody else's best receiver, that's what I'm going to do. That's the kind of kid he was.
You can find him on Twitter at @MDavidHood. David Hood joining us here on the Fan Upstate. So a limited sample size between these two games so far, but, lowest of the lows against Georgia, highest of the highs against App State, 2 vastly different opponents. Now you've got a week off. How does Dabo reel this team back in so they don't get too far over their skis heading into the next game 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, I think this is a good time for them to kind of heal a little bit. We'll find out about Peter Woods at 5:30 when we talk to Dabo and see just, if he's going to be out or how long he's going to be out. And talking to a former player too, just a little bit ago, he said, man, I wish we played this week. Wish we could keep the momentum going, but maybe it'll be good. They've got all that success behind them from the past week. Now they can sit and watch a few games and, watch NC State and start their game plan for them. Now they have 2 weeks to prepare for the Wolfpack. And so for Coach Swinney, one of the things I wrote this morning was that maybe his best coaching job coming out of that Georgia game was getting this team to understand and still believe that that's a good football program. It's a good football team over there. And they came out and played like it. You could tell early on they were taking App State serious. They opened up the playbook and went out, kind of played up to their potential, and you saw good things. I think that's a great coaching job by Dabo.
David, do you believe in any of the narratives when you talk about sandbagging, Dabo talking about last week's Georgia game being a preseason game? In your mind, in your opinion, is there any truth to Clemson holding back against Georgia in terms of why they just didn't look like themselves?
I'll tell you what I really and truly believe. I don't believe in sandbagging or anything like that. I think that Kaye came out through that first pass down at the feet. Brenningstool dropped a pass. Couple motion penalties against Adam Randall, and the offense just looked out of sync at the beginning. And so, they still took deep shots. There were 4 shots that they really took down the field. Didn't work out. But it was more about let's protect the football. Let's try and keep everybody healthy. Once Georgia kind of came out there to start the second half and took control, Clemson came down, didn't score a touchdown, but got the field goal. I think the offense kind of even more at that point, kind of, you didn't see him go into panic mode or hurry mode or anything like that. It was more like, let's just run these plays that we have and kind of get out of here. And then Dabo said after the game that it was, more of a scrimmage than anything else. So it seemed to me, I don't know if you'd call it sandbagging. I don't think so, but it was more like, we know what Georgia is. We know what they can do. Offense is out of sync. Let's just kind of get out of here.
David, Clemson certainly got a clear and defined playbook on how to stop NC State from Tennessee. I mean, they shut the Wolfpack down. In your experience, how much do coaches sort of copy paste what Tennessee did versus how much do they need to use that as the same concepts and then tweak them to scheme to give that team something different to look at 2 weeks from now?
Oh, yeah, college football is just like the NFL. It's a copycat league. Everybody's going to look at what everybody else does. And, you take a look at what Tennessee did. You go, okay, man, that's pretty good. One of one of my Wolfpack friends texted me about third quarter during that game. He was at the game in Charlotte. He said there is a vast talent differential here. So Tennessee was able to, take advantage, kind of keep Concepcion in check for the most part, and some of, what they tried to do with Grayson McCall. And you better believe Wes Goodwin's taking a look at every bit of that and trying to figure out how to stop that NC State offense, which, if you look at it, even against Western Carolina, it was really, can they get Concepcion in space? And nobody else really stood out to you or anything like that. So, for Clemson, it's going to be, can you kind of corral him and make somebody else beat you?
David Hood, Tiger Net, joins us every Monday at 4:20. It's fascinating when you look at the play of Klubnik and getting those guys involved early. Do you think, David, that coordinators and head coaches, Garrett Riley and Dabo Swinney, do you think that their philosophies change throughout the season? Because we all know what their schemes and philosophies are. But when you see the impact that the young guys made who didn't play early against Georgia, you would maybe lean to believe that maybe they'll change their philosophies on getting these young guys involved early.
Oh, no doubt. And, I think you've seen it the past couple of years that, you kind of come out one way and you see what you've got. Maybe you don't trust your quarterback. Maybe you don't trust your offensive line last year. You change things up into the offense that we wound up seeing, which was kind of painful. And then, then as the year went on, you kind of saw Clemson go to that two-back look with Shipley and with Maffa. And it was, let's lean more on the running game than the passing game, because as good as we thought Clemson was down the stretch, Klubnik still threw, I think 6 interceptions over the last 5 or 6 games. There were a couple of games where it was like 109 yards passing, 101. And so they changed their modus operandi, and they went with the running game. And so now it's going to be, okay, now let's get the ball out to Brenningstool. Hopefully they get Tyler Brown back healthy. But get these kids going and get them going early. I thought it was kind of funny there on Twitter. I said if it was me, I'd throw a deep shot to Wesco on the first play. Well, it was the third play. I'm still taking credit for
it. David, you also tweeted, and I noticed this while we were sitting there watching it live, that Trent Pierman and Billings led Clemson down the hill. Why did those two take off down the hill before everybody else?
Well, because of DeAndre Overton, who wore 14. So those are the two guys that wear 14 currently. And I got to admit that was in a bit of an emotional moment, for us sitting there in the press box that knew DeAndre and Dabo letting the two 14s run down the hill first. That was classy move.
Hey, David, a come-out game, if you will, for Sammy Brown, who had 9 total tackles, 7 solo tackles, a big game for him, a guy that did not see the field against Georgia. When we talk about, philosophies defensively, I don't know the exact reasoning Wes Goodwin didn't have more rotation against Georgia, but you got to feel like regardless of who you play, if you're Clemson, these guys on defense that are a little bit younger, including Sammy Brown, have got to see the field.
Yeah, and I thought that there had been some issues at nickel, and we saw Shelton Lewis kind of play in there a little bit Saturday. They moved Khalil Barnes from nickel, where he's really good, to safety. Colin Griffin maybe not doing as good as they thought. And, there's a part of me that wonders, do you move Wade Woodaz back to that nickel Sam to get Sammy Brown out on the field more? I think that's going to be interesting to watch going forward, is just trying to figure out how they fit the pieces that they have. You feel really good with Lucas. You feel really good with Shelton Lewis. You feel really good with Avion Terrell out at corner. Ashton Hampton is really coming along. So how are they going to try and fit those pieces in at safety? Mickens has played really well back there. Nobody else has, and they've kind of struggled in some other spots. So, will they keep Khalil there? Can they get Sammy on the field? It'll be fun to watch what they do against NC State.
Yeah, David, you made it a point to point out just how many guys Clemson got into the game. I think you tweeted 105 or so guys got into that football game. Who of the depth chart guys would you say came in and kind of surprised you, kind of showed you a little bit on their limited reps in the second half?
I like Dietrich Pennington. I think he came in, and he's a big guy that they have tried to bring along. And in his limited time out there, I thought that he played fairly well. I loved what Sammy was able to do. Sherrod Coble is a kid that came in at safety, and He likes to run downhill and hit people. Impressed with him. Would have loved to seen Robert Gunn in a situation to come out and try and kick a little bit. Jack Smith, the punter, he got in. Vic Burley, he got in. Champ Thompson, got to see him play a little bit there on the defensive line. There were just a lot of guys that it was kind of good to see them go out there and get reps. But I was really impressed with Vizina. He came out on that fourth down there on the goal line. He's got better wheels probably than people thought. And I thought that his passing was on point.
David, fantastic stuff as always. We really do appreciate your time each and every Monday, and we will talk to you next week as the Tigers get ready for NC State.
Hey, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, Diesel, I felt so bad on Saturday night in the press box. I didn't know, but David has some sort of injury, lower collarbone, upper shoulder. You know how you do when you see people. You
slap him on the
back.
back.
Him on the side,
Yeah.
back. I slapped him on the side right here.
Man.
And he just went down, and I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he said, "I injured my collar. I think it's part of his collarbone." I felt terrible, but hopefully he gets better.
Hey, I'd be lying if I say I haven't done that before. Not to him, but like to my
People.
wife. I'll
Sunburn
forget.
or something.
Just sunburn. You just smack somebody on the back, you know.
Yeah.
And like,
Didn't mean to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sorry, not sorry.
We had John Dog message in on the text line 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. He says, "Where can we find the updated upset challenge standings?" Well, John Dog, and to all you other Tolos who are playing the game, I have the graphic, but there's one small little fix that we need to make to the graphic, and then I'll be able to post it. But I can't talk about it on the show, so we'll get to that later on for sure.
It is time to get you updated on what's going on in the sports world. We call them Daily Wires next. time to get you updated on what happened. A ton happened over the weekend. It's called the Daily Wires. Getting you updated on all of the top stories in sports. The Atlanta Braves are still playing baseball, by the way. I don't know if you knew that or not. They took 2 of 3 this weekend.
Is that what you call it?
Well, they took 2 of 3 from the Blue Jays. They're 7 games back, tied with the Mets. They do have a makeup game tonight versus the Reds. 6:40 first pitch. Charlie Morton getting the start. Diesel, not a good start for the Furman Paladins. 0-2 after a loss on Saturday to Charleston Southern, 24-20. That's tough.
Yeah, I remember talking to Coach Hendricks about that last week, and Charleston Southern now been in multiple, I think at this point, 2 or 3 one-score football games.
Like Citadel close.
And clearly, so this is the second one. Clearly, that's going to be the DNA of this football team for Charleston Southern to be able to win the close ones.
And how does Furman respond to starting 0-2? Another local flavor, the Walford Terriers, well, the opposite, starting the season 2-0 after a 26-19 win over 14th-ranked Richmond over the weekend. A big win for the Terriers. Also locally here in Greenville.
Is Wofford back, by the way? Are they back?
No. They're not back.
Wofford back?
That'd be a discredit to what Mike
They were on the wishbone again?
No, they wish. North Greenville also losing last weekend, starting the season 0-1 after a Thursday night loss to Kaiser, 23-20. Anderson's Bobby Lamb gets his first career win over the weekend at Anderson University in the Trojans' inaugural game against St. Andrews, where they won 51-14. How about that? Adding another college here in the upstate. Bobby Lamb getting it done.
Yeah, congratulations to the former Paladin head coach, former Mercer Bears head coach, now Anderson Spartans coach.
Wow, how about that? In Miami over the weekend, multiple Dolphins players were detained by Miami-Dade police. One of those was all-pro wide receiver Tyreek Hill. He was pulled over for allegedly speeding while driving to the game. A little Scotty Scheffler similarities between Tyreek and this situation?
Yeah, we talked about this a lot yesterday to start the Carolina kickoff show. We don't know exactly what happened to instigate the incident, alleged speeding, whether that's 10 miles over, 15, 20, whatever he was doing.
Sure.
And then we also don't know what it is Tyreek Hill said to escalate this situation to where it went. Now, we all saw the myriad of videos that came out of police officers with Tyreek face down with his knee in his back. And there was even one that appeared as if, and this was a tough angle to see exactly what was going on, but appeared as if one officer stomped on the back of Tyreek's leg or maybe his knee to kind of bend his knee and make him go down to the ground. Just an ugly look for the Miami police. But again, we don't know what Tyreek Hill said to these officers to escalate it to that point. It's possible that Tyreek was doing 20, 25 miles an hour over, gets pulled over and says, bleep you cops, you can't pull me over. I'm Tyreek Hill, blah, 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 blah. And he gets pulled out of the car, and obviously this thing escalates.
Tyreek Hill spoke about it post-game. Here's what he said.
Right now, so I've been trying to figure that out too. Man. Right now I'm still trying to put it all together. So I'm not going to give you a version that I still don't know what happened. You know what I'm saying? But I do want to be able to use this platform to say, like, what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill, bro? Like, worst case scenario, because it's crazy. Like, I want to be a cop one day. I got a state trooper, had all that, so I got a lot of respect for cops, man. But obviously, everybody has bad apples in every situation, so I want to be able to, use this platform, to figure out a way to like flip this and, make it a positive on both ends, on my end and then also Miami-Dade, so that way we can team together and, do something positive for the community, because that's what it's all about, bro. Like, you guys are here to like protect us as individuals and I have a platform and I want to be able to team up with you guys. So that's all I got to say.
You couldn't have asked for somebody to handle that in a better way than what he did.
Great job, Tyreek.
That was fantastic, and maybe a lesson for anyone else who is in a similar situation. He really handled that well.
He obviously had the opportunity to go out there and, blow up the spot. And, make it seem much worse and inflame things. And he calmed things down very, very well.
Did a fantastic job. Dak Prescott, Diesel, yesterday broke social media. He became the highest paid player in NFL history, signing a 4-year extension worth $240 million, $231 million guaranteed, $60 a year. You think you could live off of $60 million a year?
That is a lot of money to pay somebody to get bounced in the first round.
Absolutely.
Good God,
Jerry
come on. Jones,
Come
what
on.
are you thinking?
Don't do me like that. Don't do me like that.
Maybe now he can actually go win a game. He was underpaid before. He was underperforming because he felt underpaid. That's what it was.
Well, that's exactly what he's going to do this year. And by the way, how about those Cowboys yesterday? Looked good yesterday, so I'll brag about that. Yesterday, also bad news. Carolina Panthers looked bad, and then we heard that Derek Brown, potentially season-ending injury, a meniscus injury. Diesel will require surgery, which will determine the timeline. That's tough.
That's adding injury to insult.
Yes.
Because you got insulted as a franchise yesterday, getting beat by 37 points
True.
in game 1.
Also, for the first time ever yesterday, a Guardian cap was worn during a game. Number 78 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, James Daniels, wore the Guardian cap. Listen, if that's what he feels is safe, I have no issue with it. I don't want to ever say, oh, you shouldn't be safe, right? You're out there risking your life. You know, we've seen bad things happen. If that's you, man, you do it. I have no issue with it.
Yeah, I saw NFL pundits talking about this, basically saying the same thing, saying, I think it was one of the Watts. I'm not sure. Saying, I wouldn't wear it, but if he feels safer wearing it, by all means, go do it. I mean, that's what it was for. It looks goofy. It looks bad.
Yeah.
But if you feel safer, by all means.
By all means, absolutely. And then also former Clemson Tiger DeAndre Overton, terrible news over the weekend, was shot and killed at a party in Greensboro, North Carolina early Saturday morning. Just absolutely gut-wrenching to hear that out of Greensboro, North Carolina. And then lastly, the NFL announced, Diesel, that Kendrick Lamar will be the halftime performer at this year's Super Bowl in New Orleans.
Yeah, he was part of the halftime show 2 years ago when it was in L.A. So look at you, Kendrick.
I like it.
You're becoming the main act at the Super Bowl halftime show. When we come back, it's time for Overreaction Monday. My
bad. Let me try that again.
Overreaction Monday. We'll give 3 each. We'd love for you Tolos to reach out as well. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or message in on the stream. What's your biggest overreaction of the week? College, pro, whatever. That's next. What a fun weekend in college football we had. We had a major upset of a top 5 team. Notre Dame went down to NIU. We had big games in the NFL. The Saints showed up. The Carolina Panthers didn't. They never got off the bus. I don't know what's going on down there in New Orleans.
Sandbagging.
But Cole, let's talk about it. And let's not just talk about it. Let's overreact about it. Overreaction Monday. What's your number one overreaction of the week? And you Tolos, of course, can get yours in by texting 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or drop it in the comments section on the stream on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube.
I cannot wait. You know, Diesel, as a sports host, we get the opportunity to hear the best of the best reactions. And, you know, like when a team loses or a team wins over the weekend, the overreactions are what we love. Like we always say, don't overreact. However, the overreactions
win the Super Bowl.
I mean, the overreactions is what keeps us Cowboy fans sane, right? I mean, I watched Dallas yesterday, and they did look good. They looked really good. And I felt super confident, and I do it every year. I'm upset about them. I get pissed off at how the season ends, and then all of a sudden, the next year rolls around, Diesel. They win a game on the road, big win, look really good. Oh, man, we're going to be good this year. We're going to be good, right? We're going to be all right. We might make a run.
Could you imagine if Dak Prescott had come out and flopped in his first game after getting that fat paycheck the way that we watched Deshaun Watson flop in Cleveland for the past 2 years?
That would be – I told a buddy of mine yesterday when it happened. I got the alert on my phone. I was out and about doing something, and I told a buddy of mine that's the worst possible time to have a contract extension. He's going to go out there and throw 6 picks.
Yeah.
I hated it. However, he lived up to it. And again, not to get on a tangent here, but I'll tell you this. For those that give Dak a lot of hate, this is a 4th-round guy that was never intended to be the franchise guy. Like, he deserves a ton of credit for what he's done. So it is time. Diesel, I'll let you go first with your first overreaction of the weekend.
My first overreaction is Sharon Moore and Michigan were exposed as frauds and will struggle to win 9 games this year. They looked not bad, but bad against Texas. I mean, horrible against Texas. And remember that, you lost a lot of your offense to the NFL draft last year, but you kept a majority of your defense. The defense was supposed to be what was really good at Michigan.
Yeah.
Yet somehow you let Texas come in there and put 31 points on you, 17 in the second quarter, touchdown in the first, touchdown in the third. I mean, Michigan scored it looks like 2 field goals in the fourth quarter to even make this thing look respectable, or it would have been 31-6.
So, you know, you and I hit the nail on the head last week. We said it multiple times that Texas minus, what was it? Was it 9? No, it was less than 9, 6.5, whatever it was. I took it. I forgot what it was.
It was much lower than it should have been.
Very low spread. You and I said all last week.
This is minus 6.5, yeah.
6.5. We said take Texas, take them. Thankfully, I did. I wish I'd have took Tennessee too.
That could have been Texas minus 13.5, and I would have took
it. Easily. So, you know what? Your first overreaction of Michigan being exposed as frauds, I don't hate it. They didn't look good. They didn't look good at all. Quarterback play wasn't the best. My first overreaction, Diesel, and we'll get to some text and messages because we have a lot coming in. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. We'll also get to Delvin on the phone in just a minute or two. My first overreaction, Bryce Young's a bust. He's a bust. I mean, it was pitiful what we saw yesterday. He's not the guy, and the Panthers have now set their franchise back another 3 to 5 years because they took the wrong guy. They could have taken C.J. Stroud. They messed up. They made a mistake, and now they've set themselves back. My first overreaction, Diesel, Bryce Young will go down as a bust.
Bryce Young looked awful again, and all we've heard all off season is that Bryce has sped up his delivery. Bryce is looking better. Bryce is understanding the concepts. And look, it's difficult to understand an NFL level offense in just a couple of months. Obviously that's all he's had with Dave Canales. So I'm not willing to overreact that much that much on Bryce Young yet. Now, if we're talking week 5, 6, 7, and Bryce is still out there throwing picks and multiple interceptions and no touchdowns, which is the exact same Bryce Young we saw last year. At that point, I say bench his ass, put Andy Dalton in, or as we were talking about earlier in the show, don't win for Quinn.
I like that. I really do. I like it.
There's a poll up, by the way. If you guys haven't been over to the Fan Upstate on Twitter in the last hour or so, there is a poll up on the Fan Upstate Twitter that asks the question, which rhyme do you like better for this season? Which slogan do you like better? Don't win for Quinn or let it go to heck for Beck? And as of right now, 60% like don't win for Quinn.
That's a good one. Don't win for Quinn. I'm all for it, man. I'm on board. Let's see what Delvin has to say. 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. We still have 2 overreactions to get to. Diesel and I both do. Delvin, what's up, buddy?
Look, my whole reaction is that ESPN tried to pay the referees off in Notre Dame game for Notre Dame to win.
Why is that?
Play. Come on, there was a first down on their 32.
You're right.
And the replay officials and all the referees got it wrong. How can you get it wrong when the Duke clearly got the first down? I bet ESPN wanted Notre Dame to play off, so they tried to pay the officials off. But they all said, like the coach said, we don't need low. We'll just go take it ourselves. And what they did.
Delvin, we had a gentleman standing next to us saying every time they take this long to make a play, to review a call, they always screw it up.
True.
And by God, they screwed it up. You could clearly tell that NIU player, he had everything north of his knees across the first down line to gain, yet they still called it short. Just ludicrous call by that. Yeah.
I bet the referees out the game say, hey guys, we tried to give it to you. Y'all just lost it. I don't know what to tell you.
Thanks, Delvin. That's a good overreaction. Delvin's overreaction. They paid off the refs. ESPN did specifically. All right, let's go to JD and hear his overreaction, and we'll get to ours. 844-326-3663. What's up, JD?
Hey, gentlemen, thanks for taking my call. Mine, they're kind of a joke, but it's kind of not. So my biggest overreaction for the weekend is Tom Brady isn't going to be near the commentator that he was a quarterback. Did y'all see how much that man stuttered in that first little opening there? He sounded like he was trying to explain to Giselle that he was coming back to play football for another year with all that stuttering going on. And then, of course, for my Gamecocks, we're playoff bound, baby. Y'all have a good one.
Hey, JD, real quick, can I push back on the first one on Tom Brady?
Yeah, absolutely.
You said that Tom won't be as good as a commentator as he was a quarterback. I don't think that's fair. I mean, he was 7 Super Bowls. I mean, I don't think even if he was the best commentator ever, he'd still come close to being that good of a quarterback.
He's not going to win 7 Emmys, that's for sure.
Right. Well, no, and like I said, hey, it's my overreaction. So, again, it was just poking a little fun. I think Tom Brady's going to be a great commentator. It's just weird that Tony Romo, your Dallas Cowboys quarterback, was able to step right into the booth and have a seamless, transition. Whereas Tom apparently has been practicing this whole time and, didn't do very well. But that's just, hey, that's just what all the X and Twitter folks are saying.
That's right.
I was just coming to poke a little fun, make the show more interesting.
I
appreciate you, JD. Yeah, and it's funny. That was my number 3 overreaction. Is dude has the personality of a plank of wood. Get him out of the booth.
You and JD both
absolutely sucked. I mean, he was on the pregame show talking about how much effort he's put in, sitting in the booth, calling, games of old, talking about showing off that personality and showing off his analysis. And then all of a sudden we get nothing.
Was he the best ever? No, I didn't hate it. And maybe I didn't hate it because I'm a big Tom Brady fan. I really do like Tom Brady, Diesel. But I didn't hate it. So that's one of yours. Tom Brady sucked, right? Get him out of the booth.
It is.
All right, I'll give you my second. Shane Beamer, my overreaction, second one. Shane Beamer guaranteed himself another year with Saturday's win over Kentucky.
So you think he guaranteed himself 2025?
That's correct.
With Kentucky?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Wow.
What an overreaction, right? What an overreaction. He guaranteed himself to be the coach next year, 2025 for South Carolina. That's a big win.
Cole, that this season very well could go so far off the rails that they're not even on the same tracks anymore. Like you know that LSU could, and I'm not trying to antagonize you Angry Birds, you Gamecock fans. I'm just trying to say LSU is a really good football team. And South Carolina has played two vastly different types of opponents in week 1 and week 2. They put it together. They looked really good defensively. They looked pretty good offensively. But to say Shane Beamer gets a whole nother year,
yes,
if he goes out there and gets absolutely drugged by the rest of this schedule, yeah, let's give him a whole nother year.
A whole nother year, man.
On.
A ton of reaction. We'll get back to the phones. All right, Diesel, what is your last overreaction?
My last one is fire Sean Clark.
Oh,
App
my
State,
God.
fire Sean Clark. Now, I have made no secret online on the message boards because I spend some time over there. I have made no bones about it that I thought Sean Clark was not a great hire at App State. Eli Drinkwitz was clearly the real deal when he took the job at App State. He was there for 1 year, beat North Carolina and South Carolina in the same season, said, I'm going to be here for a long time. I love it here. Immediately dipped to take that SEC paycheck at Missouri. And we all laughed at it and said, you're going to the dregs, right? You're going somewhere awful. And what does App State do? They go hire a former player who all the players on the roster loved, who everybody was just really hoping he would one day get a chance to be a head coach at his alma mater. He cried in his press conference. He was so emotional about getting the job. And they didn't even bother going out there to look for a head coach outside of the program. You know, I think maybe because they had just been through it and they said, we don't need to go through this all over again. But this team is not playing the way that it used to play before he got there. And he is a good coach. He is in no way, shape, or form for the G5 level an elite head coach.
All right. I have my third, and then we'll get to the phones. We have had 5 calls already this segment. Phone lines are buzzing. My third one, my third overreaction, Diesel. I was wrong about Colorado and Deion. I was wrong. I thought that they would take a massive leap in year 2. I thought that Deion would really have bolstered this team, especially on the offensive line. I thought Colorado would win 6-7 games and be a pretty good team this year. And from what I watched yesterday, or Saturday rather, my overreaction, my third one is I was wrong. Colorado's no better than they were last year, and I haven't seen a ton of actual coaching that's gone into it. No improvement. That's my overreaction.
Right. Deion can clearly recruit a couple of highly talented skill position guys.
Sure.
When they're related to him, when they better come to Boulder so that they can keep taking advantage of daddy's money. Right?
Yeah, I'm with
daddy's influence. And they can probably commit NCAA recruiting violations by DMing players on other rosters and getting away with it because they're shielded by a head coach. I'm with you though. Deion is clearly in show me mode. A real reaction would be overreaction would be Deion Sanders is going to be fired by the end of the season.
All right, we've got to take a break, but first we have Tom and Rick who want to chime in. Tom, what's up, man?
Hey guys, I just remember on Friday I called, made a few bold predictions, got blasted for it, but it's my turn to poke back. I said on Friday the Gamecocks would win 9 games. I said on Friday that this defense is being slept on, and here we are. When you've watched as much bad football as I have watched in my 52 years of living, I know when I see a good defense, and the offense has still got some room to grow. That's a fact. But when you got a guy like Dylan Stewart on that defensive line, he's going to cause problems, and it's going to make everything else look better. Now, Friday I did say 9 wins. I still think the path to 9 is there, especially after you beat Kentucky. But it's going to take, without a doubt, one of Beamer's best coaching jobs to regroup and get ready for LSU this weekend. And if they can do that and they can take care of LSU, you talk about hype, you talk about momentum, it's going to be better than it has been in, 15 years, 14 years?
Yeah.
So this is a huge week for South Carolina football.
It is.
But if they do it, if they get it done, go ahead and book your playoff trip. Go ahead and buy your SEC championship ticket because the momentum's going to be through the roof, Cole.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Tom. All right, real quick, Rick, before we run to break, Rick, what's up, man?
Okay, I heard Diesel on his show yesterday say that Panthers would win that game yesterday.
I did say that.
In 5 or 6, they won't win one game this year.
Not one?
They won't win nothing.
You don't have any faith in the quarterback whisperer, the guru that's fixed 1,000 QBs to fix Bryce Young?
They played the Saints yesterday. So they're second worst team next to the Panthers. And let me tell you what, you watched the game? That was the worst debacle of talent I've ever seen in my life. It was the worst. He did nothing. Bryce Young is
He is. We're losing you a little bit, Rick. We're going to have to let you run. We're going to run as well. And on the other side, we'll have Jordan Kaye, who we've had on the show before. He covers South Carolina. He was in Lexington Saturday of the state newspaper to talk South Carolina Gamecock football. Next. South Carolina went on the road Saturday and got a big win in Lexington, a big win for the program, as well as Shane Beamer, who kind of just needed that one. We bring in Jordan Kaye of the State newspaper. We've had him on the show before. Jordan was in Lexington. Jordan, I mean, there's no other way to put it other than when you look at Shane Beamer and the pressure that he has, that was one of the biggest wins, in my opinion, that he has had in a long time, arguably since the Clemson win.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. I totally agree. If South Carolina loses at Kentucky last week, they're at a real uphill climb to make a bowl. The hot seat pressure around Shane Beamer mounts a little bit. The LSU game really seems out of reach. You could realistically see a scenario where they're 2-5 and things look really rough for 2 straight years. Totally agree. That was the biggest win he's had in 2 years. Stout defensive performance, and it looks like the recruiting that he's been touting for a while now is kind of starting to see the fruits of it right now.
Jordan Kaye of the State newspaper joining us here on the Fan Upstate. Jordan, it's Diesel here. The word of the day for South Carolina's offense was efficient. Lenora Sellers, 11 for 15, 2 touchdowns. Rocket Sanders, 4 yards a carry. Not elite, but, as my old college buddy used to say, he picked this up from his old high school football coach, 3 times 4 is a first down. The O-line did a pretty decent job. I think the biggest difference that I saw from week 1 to week 2 was the fire, the passion, the energy. Where did that come from? How did that build? How did Shane Beamer build that into his team from week 1 to 2?
I was not sure where you were going with that word. was not expecting efficient. But yeah, I mean, I guess when you look at it, they were. I mean, I don't know that he did really anything crazy, but this is just a really new offense with a bunch of guys who have never played for South Carolina before. And it was probably to be expected that they were going to have a little bit of a clunker coming out of the gate. This Lenora Sellers first start. Rocket Sanders hadn't played a game in 10 months, I think. All these receivers are basically new. The O-line, 3 of them had never played a game for South Carolina. I mean, this is just so much new. And perhaps we were probably a little too bullish on them coming out of the gate. I think I'm thinking of myself, probably should have expected them to struggle for their first game. And you would think that they're going to get better with each game. And I think that's what you saw with the Kentucky game. It's just more consistency, more comfortability. Lenora Sellers keeping his eyes downfield when he escapes the pocket. Dowell Loggins kind of understanding who his playmakers are, what wide receivers he can trust, and then being able to scheme them open. I don't think it was necessarily nothing crazy, just guys getting more comfortable and feeling more secure in what they're doing.
When you look at the rest of the season, Jordan, obviously South Carolina's defense was really good on Saturday, but are you getting the sense through 2 games that the MO, the book on this South Carolina football team, is going to be a team that's led by the defense and the offense just has to do enough?
100%. This is a team that will go as its defensive line goes. And I think the good thing for that, if you're a South Carolina fan, is the defense is going to keep you in almost all these games. Thank goodness they don't play, Tennessee or Georgia this year, but none of these offenses right now in the SEC who they've got to play are really scaring me too much if I'm South Carolina. So, yeah, I think the defense is going to be the ones leading the charge. And then if you're Shane Beamer, you've got to hope that your offense can catch up and take advantage of that defense. They hardly did it against Old Dominion, but they did it against Kentucky and scored enough when they needed to. But, yes, this team is going to be led by Dylan Stewart, the freshman, Kyle Kennard, and their great veteran defensive tackles.
We're talking right now live to Jordan Kaye of the State newspaper. Jordan, when Kentucky finally made the decision to switch off of Brock Vandagriff, who crazy stat of that game, he finished with a QBR of 1.2, which is just absurd. Gavin Wimsatt came in and he was actually moving the ball fairly well on that drive. I know it ended with a pick and the game was basically over, but it wasn't quite a lock at that point. Where did you see the most glaring breakdown on that particular drive?
I wasn't too concerned with that drive. I mean, I get what you're saying. They did move the ball a little bit. They ran it a little better, but I mean, South Carolina, if like I was looking at their depth, I mean, they were playing a lot of guys who they normally wouldn't play. I mean, Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard were not playing on that drive, I don't believe. Nothing too glaring. That was, to me, one of the, I don't like using the word garbage time, but I don't think it had any real impact on the game. And I don't know that South Carolina was going full force. But, I think what it showed me, and I think Kentucky did it a little bit at the beginning of the game, the run defense is not up to the standard of the pass defense right now for South Carolina. And that's not to say that they're bad with its rush defense. The pass defense is just so good. And I think Kentucky figured that out on Saturday. And there were just moments where they just completely stopped running the ball. And so South Carolina, I mean, you can have Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart just pin their ears back and go after Brock Vandegrift, who looked like a tackling dummy out there. And so I think, on those later Kentucky drives, they got Vandegrift out of there, and they were just kind of seemed like they were ready to go home and just ran the ball up the middle a couple times and had some big things. And I think the quarterback completed one pass. So I didn't think it was anything too crazy.
Hey, Jordan, how was the crowd in Lexington in terms of the contingent of South Carolina fans? You were there Saturday.
There was a lot of people who made the drive. I know some folks took advantage of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail on the Friday before the game and, made sure they saw the great sights of Lexington. But no, there was, I want to say, a couple thousand South Carolina fans in their garnet packed into the corner of the end zone. And it was really, really cool after the game. I mean, those are the moments that like Shane Beamer thrives when he gets a massive victory like that. Like no one's better of like pumping up a crowd or hyping people up than he is. And I mean, he's jumping around almost like a kid doing these like Rocky fist pumps and just going and high-fiving all the crowd. I mean, those are the things that he like lives for. And it was really cool for him to be able to do it on a road against a Mark Stoops team who he has plenty of beef with over the years and just get a dominating performance really for like the first time in like 2 years over an SEC opponent.
Yeah, Jordan, it's going to be a blast to see Shane Beamer on. Hopefully he comes out on the set to College Game Day. Not every time does the home head coach go out to the set, but could you imagine Shane Beamer on the set of a College Game Day, just how hype he's going to be? I mean, do we know at this point if he's going to be there on set?
Nothing has been confirmed. No, I have no clue, but knowing that Shane Beamer always likes to talk about South Carolina and wants to get the name of the school out there, I would be shocked if he's not out there. Shane Beamer is one of the best coaches at, the phrase always be recruiting. Shane Beamer is like always recruiting. I mean, like everything he does, he's always kind of like got that mindset, it seems. So yes, I would be very shocked if he passed up the opportunity to give a pitch for his program in front of the audience that College Game Day provides.
Jordan, we all know that LSU is a different animal than Kentucky, but did your thoughts on this game Saturday change after what you saw in Lexington?
How could it not? I mean, this South Carolina defense, it's so scary. Like if you're an opposing team, LSU hardly ran the ball against Nicholls State. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier has played well, but I don't think this is, Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers we're talking about. If South Carolina can have somewhat of the game they did against Kentucky and have even a semblance of that pass rush, they're going to be in the game in the fourth quarter. And if the offense can convert on a couple plays, I mean, you have to think that South Carolina is going to have a chance on Saturday. The one thing is just like LSU, they do have some guys. I know a lot of people were talking about Kentucky's offensive line is not very good. They had some injured players. We'll see how good South Carolina's defensive line really is against this O-line. And we'll see, but nothing to this point has showed me that LSU is just going to come into Williams-Brice and stomp South Carolina.
Jordan Kaye of the state newspaper here on the Fan Upstate. One of our listeners, Jordan, this is a little inside piece of information from you. One of our P1 Tolo listeners of the show is actually the pilot who's going to be flying the LSU team plane. He's flying down to Louisiana to pick them up, bring them back here, and then doing the return trip to send them back home. So that's a fascinating little bit of information from you. And we know for a fact that this guy is an actual pilot with a major carrier. He is not pulling our leg on this. But my question for you, as you watch that Kentucky game, and of course you always have to kind of you always have to watch everything with a grain of salt or not to get overhyped about those kind of things. But when you looked at your win-loss projections over the course of the season before this started, and then now you have this bit of information to add to it, are you changing your mind on any of those games that maybe you thought could be losses that now could be wins, or previously unwinnable games that now you think, they stand a chance?
I was just thinking about this, last night and today. I had them at a pretty optimistic 7-5. So that was, a lot better than where Vegas had them. But yeah, you start looking around the SEC, and there's some teams with like holes and who are really struggling. Like, I want to go listen to the sports talk radio in Norman right now. They are not having the best time. Like, there's all these teams. It seems like South Carolina at least stands a chance, and I didn't think they had any chance against LSU at the beginning of the year. I thought they had no chance against Alabama. Those teams haven't looked like world beaters. Oklahoma, they can't move the ball at all on offense, and they've got another redshirt freshman quarterback who some of their fans thought might, be in the Heisman talk, and he hasn't really showed up. And so those are 3 games right there: LSU, Alabama, and Oklahoma, where I think they have a decent chance. Texas A&M, I think I had them losing. All of a sudden, that looks like a very possible win. And then, we'll see how Clemson goes, but, that might be a little closer than I thought. I think the one game still that I'm not really ready to say they have a shot in is Ole Miss. I actually did project them to win that earlier, but, man, Ole Miss looks really, really good. And, I'm not sure about that one.
Hey, Jordan, my last question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot here. The Jordan Kaye best guess for celebrity picker on Saturday in Columbia at game day. Who you got?
Gosh, you guys are like going through all the things that I've like thought about the last little bit. I mean, I think Don Staley would do a hell of a job. Like, that would be a really fun one. I was thinking like a recent tie-in. You had Quincy Hall, who won the 400 meters, got his gold medal. Would be pretty sick if he comes to set with a gold medal and they kind of, show his race and everything. I think Darius Rucker's done it too much. He's been too involved. I don't think it's going to be him. But other than that, I mean, I was going through Wikipedia today being like, am I missing an alum? Like, is there someone I'm just like, they're going to come out of left field? So we'll see. I know people were pretty pissed in 2014 because it was Kenny Chesney, who has no affiliation to the school. So there's a chance there's some wild card. I don't know. I got to start thinking about country guys. Maybe, Zach Bryan has visited South Carolina. Maybe it'll be him this time. Not sure. Who are you guys thinking? Who's the great guess?
Jordan, my question is, how would South Carolina fans react if it was Steve Spurrier? Now, I know that he's been out there kind of beating the drum for Florida again a lot recently, but obviously, his time at South Carolina won an awful lot of football games there. He's kind of, both sides of this thing. He's kind of riding the fence a little, leaning this way one day, leaning that way the next day. Would South Carolina fans welcome him back with open arms?
Oh, absolutely. That would be a great one. I'm kind of curious if he would do it just because he's like technically working for Florida still, but he came back last year because they had a reunion. It was like a bizarre reunion of like, this is we won 10 games for 3 straight years thing, and everyone got back together. And he was there for that and got a just massive ovation. And I think anytime he comes back to Columbia, people get pretty excited just for the success he had. So that'd be a good pick. And him and Nick Saban and Pat McAfee up there would have some very, very fun memes, I'm sure.
They certainly would. Jordan, great stuff. We appreciate your time, man, and let's do it again soon.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
You too, man. That's Jordan Kaye of the State Newspaper. Fantastic interview there, Diesel. Yeah. Okay, this is a tough conversation. I hear you. I think Spurrier would be great.
Yep. Could you imagine if it was South Carolina hosting Florida?
Oh, God. You'd have to. You'd have to do it.
It'd have to be him.
And then Connor Shaw, a texter sent in, would be a good one. Yep. However, how do you not pick Don Staley?
Can't be Steven Garcia. He'd cuss too much on the
well,
air.
Pat
does it, but
how can you not pick Dawn?
It's got to be Dawn.
She just went freaking undefeated.
It's got to be Dawn, or it's got to be a former Gamecock great women's basketball player, like Asia Wilson or somebody like that.
Olympic star that he brought up.
That's a really good one. I mean, I don't think that's something I've ever seen on game day, is seeing somebody with a big, fat gold medal sitting right there. I would do that.
You know what?
That would be
the more I
great
think
one.
about it, it'd be tough. If you could swing it, it'd be tough to not pull the trigger on that one. I just hope it doesn't disappoint, because he's right. 2014, Kenny Chesney. What the heck's Kenny Chesney doing up there?
It's who they had available. I mean, they have a list. I'm sure they're doing the exact same thing we're doing, going down the list of who's available, who's an alum, who makes sense.
I wonder who decides.
And they start calling up these people, and they're like, "Well, I can't make it. I'm doing this. I'm doing that." I mean, I would drop whatever I was doing. I would be like, "Sorry, boss, I can't make it. App State called me to be on game day."
Yeah.
He would say, "Go. The hell are you doing? Go."
I think that Dawn's probably the one you have to go.
Now that's what you should put some betting odds on.
Yeah.
Dawn Staley versus the field.
Be heavy, Dawn Staley. It'd be heavy. Plus 600. It'd be heavy. It's a fantastic interview, though, and appreciate Jordan hopping on. He's right. It's good. You know what? For all the crap that South Carolina fans get, Saturday is going to be electric. I do hate, though, game day goes up until noon.
Yeah, sometimes a few minutes over.
I don't think Williams-Brice will be packed at noon. It takes a long time to get from Gamecock Park over to I think you said it right earlier. They should have changed the game time.
3:30.
3:30.
Make it a 3:30 kick.
Afternoon, nice weather, not as hot. Noon kick, man, I don't love that. But it is what it is.
When we come back, Cole will go over the brand new, hot off the presses, college football upset picks challenge standings. And if we have more time, if we have time for it, maybe we will, maybe we won't. What should the Carolina Panthers do with their inevitable number 1 overall pick in the 2025 draft? That's coming up next. Cole, I'm nowhere on this list, and it pains me because I've been so close twice to scoring. I would be in the top 15 if my two upset picks that had come very, very, very close to hitting actually hit. But alas, I'm all the way at the bottom with zero. Big fat
ifs,
zero.
And buts or candies and nuts.
That's why this contest, this challenge is so hard, because picking upsets is hard. Maybe not for Amazon Guy, who I truly believe, Cole, and this was going to be one of my overreactions in week one, is that Amazon Guy must be Biff from Back to the Future, because that dude has some sort of sports almanac.
How's he
is
doing
hit
this, man?
on 3 big uns in a row. And this morning I was debating with Dan B, who does a phenomenal job helping out, creating this graphic and tracking all of these picks. We're trying to figure out, like, how are we going to show just the sheer number of people, the number of Tolos contestants who are on the board? Because to be able to fit it all into one graphic, we would have had to make the font so tiny that nobody would be able to see it. So we've actually modified it to look kind of like the others receiving votes thing on the AP Top 25.
I like it.
So we now are featuring the top 30, and then we have an others on the board below that.
DB on the stream, Diesel?
63.
God, 63 people?
63 on the board is close to the total number of unique players that we've had in years past.
Boom, boom, boom. We're
just
growing,
getting
baby.
bigger and bigger.
How do y'all expect me to win if in week 2 there's 63 freaking people on the board?
Well, Cole, you're tied for 21st.
No kidding.
Yeah, you're tied for 21st.
I did not know that.
Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Technically, you're tied for 11th because you have the 11th most number of points.
There's that many people that are not up, though.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. So it's going to be really hard to read all of these, you guys. So we're going to try to focus on the top 30 and maybe a few on the others receiving votes category. But in the lead right now with 35 points, Amazon Guy. Amazon Guy leading the pack with 35 points. Twisted Whisker and JT in Greer are in second place with 23.5 points.
That's impressive.
Josh Pate, he just keeps on hitting. He's got 21 points. He's in fourth place. In fifth place, a tie between John Dog and Mike Main with 19.5. Ty Duncan, 864, has 18.5. He is in sole possession of seventh place. Buckeye Brian has 17. He's in eighth. Noel and Fred Savage both have 15 points. They're tied for ninth. Tied for 11th with 13 points are Greenville Gamecock, Coach AJ, and Notre Dame Nate. In 14th place, Shane Barrett, Kirk Herbstreet, E. Thoughty, Lee Corso, Sheezy, and Wesley Roberts with 12.5 points. Brian Andrews has 10.5 points. He is in 20th place. A big group tied here with 10 points. A lot of you guys who hit on the South Carolina pick, obviously, you got 10 points in this one. Shane Connick, Cole Bryson, Falcon Jeremy, Diddy, CJ from Greer, Josh P1 Panther Boy, T Ray, Gold Rush, and Dab Daddy all have 10 points. In 30th place, we have a tie between Kevin Buggs and Brandon from Moore with 8.5 points. You got Jake Crane, JD Wyatt, Clemson Oculus, Leprechaun of Lyman, Tiger Pal Rachel, Brandon in Spartanburg, Roger Carper, Will G, Ethan Reed, MD75, Palmetto Buckeyes, Reed Atkins, Justin L, Ben in Simpsonville, Rev Red, Sparty Party 12. Y'all all have 8.5 points.
Now breathe.
After
Deep
that,
breath.
man, yeah.
Deep breath.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, I was trying to get it all in one breath. That's hard to do.
That's tough.
But shout out to Tolo Phil, Mike M, Mark L.O. Ducks, Just Jess, Mark Ryan, Fan Nashty, at JRock4, Tolo Steve, Scotty Mack, John Corley, Play-by-Play, Michael in Simpsonville, Melissa Level, Jared Tripp, Boiling Springs, Dave, and Mason Brew. You guys are all also featured in the others receiving votes category. You can go see the graphic that Dan did a phenomenal job on the Fan Upstate Twitter. Just search for @TheFanUpstate.
Amazon guy on the Facebook stream says, I'm on a burner, boys. All right, I'll tell you this.
Amazon guy, we're going to have to put you on a cold streak.
Look,
Somebody take his phone.
Here's what's going to happen. Amazon guy, all the credit in the world to you. That's really, really impressive.
It's incredible to hit him 3
But
weeks
what I'll
in a
tell
row.
you this, 35 points, like Wesley said on the stream, after week 3 is wild.
Yeah.
Hats off to you, but I'm going to make a bold prediction. You ready? We did our overreactions at 5. To the entire upstate, to you, Diesel, to Spartanburg, Anderson, Greenville, anywhere you're listening, Amazon guy will not hit again this year.
Oh.
He will not do it.
Wow.
There's no way.
If he fails to hit now with 10 weeks to go, he would fall back to 25.5 points because he's going to make picks. He's not silly like that. He's not going to not make the picks. He's going to fall back to 25.5 points, which means he is very, very beatable.
It's not happening. The party's over. I'm telling you.
I just want to know.
No way.
I just want to know what color is the horseshoe painted. Amazon guy, the one that's stuffed up your, you know what?
That's true. That's true.
God.
Hats off to you. But I'm calling it. The winning streak is over.
I even tweeted at you to gloat midway through the third or the fourth quarter in that Arkansas game, saying, I got this one in the bag. I know Cole's not going to score this week. And then, by God, Arkansas gave it away.
They did.
So mad about this.
Amazon guy says, this year is wild, Cole, chill. DB says, all caps, the party is not over, Cole. I promise. I'm telling you, man, there's no way. Everybody's going to be wanting his picks. All right, I love it. We'll continue that. And then Wednesday, when we're at Ingles, we'll kick this thing back on.
Special note for you guys. Thursday, we're not going to be on the air because we have a company party we're going to. We're not going to be on the air on Thursday. So
makes me sad.
I'm gonna have to make sure I say this to you over and over and over again. Well, you can stay here at work if you want to, instead of going to bowl and get free drinks and free food. If that's what you want to do with your day,
I think I was mandatory. Mandatory gotta be there.
We're still going to allow you to get your picks in on that day. Obviously, we're just not going to be here to read them on the air. So we're going to have to go back and pick those up.
We'll do it.
So you have to hold us accountable for that.
That's right. We will check them on Friday when we're back. All right, around the NFL, what happened this weekend? Scores, thoughts. Your thoughts are welcome as well. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. You can also chime in on the phone lines. They'll be open in the very next segment. 844-FAN-PHONE. Around the NFL next. Man, I know a lot of people diesel in the South, particularly in South Carolina. College football is king. And look, I have no pushback there. However, I'll tell you this. I get fired freaking up when the NFL gets here. I love it.
That's because your team is actually good over the course of the regular season.
They are. Well, you know what? Maybe if the Panthers were good, you might be right on that.
Well, yeah, but upstate NFL fans have got nothing to cheer for. The
Well,
Panthers are crap.
That's
The
true.
Falcons are crap.
Oh, you're not wrong. Listen, I just love it. Like, I absolutely love – I can sit on a Sunday. I didn't yesterday because I had things to do, but on a Sunday, I can sit from 1 to 11 and watch NFL. I love it so much. Now, I'll tell you this. I did watch last night's Lions-Rams game. It didn't end until 11:30, 11:45.
Yeah.
It was very late. It was a good game. But we're going around the NFL. Their Diesel is still one more game remaining in week 1. That is tonight. Your boy, Aaron Rodgers, who we all love, right? Say that tongue-in-cheek, is taking the Jets to San Francisco.
The
Jets,
nicest guy in sports.
That's
for
right.
Sure.
Jets 49ers tonight. San Francisco's favored by 4.5 points. We'll start with that one. Since it hadn't happened yet, then we'll work our way down, and I'll give you my thoughts on – listen, I think there was a lot of really good games, but Jets-Niners tonight, you know, I did pretty good this weekend on my cheese, as I call it, on my cheese applications where I put a little cheese, sprinkle a little cheese here and there on some games. I did not play any NFL, though. It was all college. So I'm thinking about tonight, Diesel, San Francisco minus 4.5. If I asked you if Aaron Rodgers scared you tonight, taking 4.5, what would you say? You laughed, so maybe no.
I laughed. No, Aaron Rodgers doesn't scare me. Aaron Rodgers
Really?
might not make it out of the first quarter.
See, he does scare me.
No, he doesn't scare me. The San Francisco 49ers, I think, win and cover.
Ooh, bold prediction.
It's a home team, a home game. You think they don't win by a touchdown?
I just tell you this. San Francisco's, on paper, probably the better team. However, Aaron Rodgers does scare me. He scares the heck out of me.
Aaron's not right in the head.
Well, he might not be, but as a football player, man, he really does scare me. It's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers. I think tonight, the Jets cover. I think the Jets cover the 4.5 on the road. Look, I know that these are two teams that, you know, have had some success as of late, and the only reason the Jets have had success is, well, take that back. The 49ers have had success.
What success have the Jets had?
That's right. They had Aaron. They were successful in getting Aaron Rodgers. Okay, they've had a good defense over the last few years, but I do like this matchup tonight for the Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback tonight. I think you'll see that, and I think they do cover the 4.5. Do they win? I'm not calling for the win. However, I do think tonight this is a very, very close game. Over-under is set at 43.5 in San Francisco. Levi Stadium should be a good one.
I would say that, Cole, but and normally because in the NFL, we have relatively low-scoring, close games. They're all professionals. They're all tippy top of their profession.
And
right?
they're close.
The big difference in this, I think in the NFL, coaching matters more than at any other level of sport with football, because you can vastly out-talent someone in college football, right? I mean, we saw that on the field Saturday at Clemson. Clemson vastly out-talented App State, but you don't get that in the NFL. You got a lot of teams that all should be kind of right there in the middle, right? It's not necessarily how it all works out. There's a reason why some GMs are great GMs, but we're seeing we've seen so far in week number 1 of the season, Cole, just some wild, high-scoring games. I mean, you don't often get 34-29 football games like we saw with Packers-Eagles. You almost never get massive blowouts like we saw with the Panthers-Saints game, 47-10.
True.
You don't have these massive discrepancies.
That's why I love it.
28-6, the Vikings beat the Giants. Something tells me this might be another one of those weird games where the 49ers out-talent the Jets at every position and end up winning that game comfortably. I'm not calling it a 3 or 4 touchdown blowout, but I could certainly see it being a 10-point game or a 14-point game.
Texter from the 323 says Aaron Rodgers hasn't played in a while. He's getting older. He doesn't scare me anymore. He's going to look rusty tonight. Look, I know you're good point. He hasn't played in a while. There may be a rust factor tonight. Let's see. Mike Main says it'll definitely be a slobber knocker. I think so. I think this could be one of the better games of the weekend.
Did Aaron play at all in any of the preseason games?
I don't think he did. I don't think so. DB says, I don't think Jets cover. Mike Main says, I think it'll be close, maybe 7 points. DB agrees with the texter. I just don't believe in Aaron anymore. San Francisco by more than 14 in my prediction. DB calling for the big win tonight. I think it's going to be a really good game. I do think the Jets cover. And to your point, I think that's why I love the NFL as much as I do, is because you get so many close games, and they're hard to predict, man. They really are.
Chiefs, Ravens, 7 points. I mean, even that Eagles-Packers game, as high scoring as it was less than a touchdown game. And you're right. You get so much more close games. I look at in college, I look at 21 points being a blowout. Anything more than 21 points is a blowout. In the NFL, you almost have to look at anything over 14 points as a blowout.
Well, you mentioned Packers-Eagles. The biggest news out of that game, Packers quarterback Jordan Love sprained MCL.
Ow.
Not good. And the Eagles got a win. It's a big win for Philadelphia. Saquon Barkley was really, really good. Last week, I believe it was, when I did my predictions for the Super Bowl, I picked Philadelphia because of Saquon Barkley, Diesel. Him in Philadelphia now this year, I think, is going to be the difference maker. He's a really good running back, 24 carries. Jalen Hurts wasn't bad, wasn't great. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 278 yards. I don't think Jalen Hurts is made to go out there and carry the team. I think that's why they need to rely on Saquon, but a big win for Philly. Let's see. As we go down the list from Sunday, Steelers-Falcons, I tell you, that game surprised me. Yeah. I didn't think that Justin Fields, who, by the way, did play, I didn't think that they would be able to go on the road in Atlanta and beat Atlanta. Kirk Cousins, Diesel, had 2 picks. I think that was, if you're a Falcons fan, I think that's a massive letdown.
Well, if you're a Falcons fan, you get another week or 2 of that, and all of a sudden you think, we got to move on and we got to play Michael Penix.
That's true.
Right? I mean,
that's
so
true.
It's almost as if losing a couple of games, if Kirk Cousins does not look good, you get to where you want to be quicker. I know that Kirk Cousins is on this big contract. It's 4 years, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. 4 years too many.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be shocked even if a healthy Kirk Cousins plays out the entire 4-year contract. But it gets you to where you want to be a little bit sooner in forcing them to play Michael Penix.
934 says Jets won't be the team media is hyping them to be. So that's a fascinating point. With Steelers and the Falcons, 18-10 Pittsburgh over Atlanta. But what happens if they go 0-2? I mean, what happens? Yeah, what happens if they just start off really, really bad? I mean, does Atlanta, does the GM, the front office, and the coaching staff, do they have the you-know-what to actually make that move? Well, I don't think there's any way they do.
The scary thing here, Cole, especially if you put any stock whatsoever in the Saints offense that we saw yesterday, and how much of that do you put on just the suckitude of the Panthers defense? But there's a good chance that the Falcons start 0-4.
What?
Because they're already 0-1.
Yeah.
They go on the road at the Eagles next week.
That's a loss.
And then they play the Chiefs at home.
Oh, God.
And then they play the Saints at home.
You're 0-3 for sure.
You're 0-3, yeah. You could be 0-4. And then you got to look and see what they did yesterday. Then you've got the Buccaneers at home. And right now the Falcons are favored, but not by much. 52% chance
Bucs look
to win that football
yesterday,
game.
Diesel.
So there's a chance they start 0-5.
Oh, my God.
And then they play the Panthers, and that'll be their get right.
No, okay, in pretend world. Let's go to pretend world for a second.
Yeah.
They go 0-5. There's no way that you know who is still at quarterback, right? There's no way. He's got to go.
They would burn that brand new stadium to the ground if they didn't start Michael Penix.
That would be bad. That would be – you know what, though? There may not be a better storyline in all of the NFL if they go 0-5 to start the season. Mark L. says, talking about Aaron Rodgers, DB, he hasn't played the whole preseason. Neither has his offensive line. I'm with you. I think they're going to get blasted tonight. Wow.
That was my exact take on the Carolina Panthers not playing the starters, but for one series in the preseason. If you're
at least they didn't get blasted though. Oh wait,
if you're an older quarterback, not so much like Aaron Rodgers, but because he's really old, right? But if you're a quarterback and you're 27, 28, 29 years old, and you've got a handful of seasons under your belt, you don't necessarily need to go out there and play in the preseason games. I mean, the Chiefs still thought it was a good idea to go play Mahomes, and obviously it helped because they came out of the gate looking really good. Maybe the Panthers were like, well, we're not going to win the first couple of weeks anyway, so let's just not play him and get him hurt.
What a great mindset.
Yeah.
What a great mindset.
They're playing 4D chess.
That's right. The Bills did win yesterday, 34-28 over the Cardinals. However, I was not impressed with Buffalo's defense at all. Aaron Murray looked way too good against that Bills defense. Arizona was leading that game, and they were leading by quite, it was 17-10 at the half, and the Bills came back and said, I don't know, man, whatever it is, I'm just not sold on the Bills. I'm really not.
How often, percentage of games, how often do you think Kyler Murray plays as himself?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
No chance Kyler Murray.
Xbox?
Yeah. No chance Kyler Murray logs in and plays as Patrick Mahomes?
No chance. How about, hey, speaking of quarterbacks, how about yesterday, the number one pick, Diesel, Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams. Okay, here's Caleb Williams' performance. 14 of 29, not great, not bad.
He threw the ball a lot.
93 yards.
Oof, that's not
good. 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, quarterback rating of 22. Not good.
No,
and they won
good.
the game. They won the game.
Yeah.
How do you win the game with that at your quarterback? I mean, I don't know how many yards they had altogether. I'm looking here at the stats. Buffalo wins 24-17 in a game where they scored 14 in the fourth quarter, and your quarterback didn't throw a touchdown. Oh, and guess what else, by the way? Your running back didn't score a touchdown. None of your running backs scored a touchdown.
So here's how they did that, Cole. They kicked 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, and then there was a pick 6 for Chicago, and they scored on the 2-point conversion. That's how 14 points came to be in the fourth quarter. So let's not give Caleb Williams a whole lot of credit.
No,
there.
He didn't do anything.
I mean, he completed the pass for the 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
So that's good, right. I guess. But outside of that, it was field goal, a 21-yard return of a blocked punt, field goal, 43-yard return on an interception for a touchdown, and a 2-point conversion. So you subtract the defense coming up big, or defense once and special teams another time for coming up huge in that game. The offense didn't do jack squat under Caleb Williams.
No, we're scrolling through the NFL, by the way, for those that just tuned in, kind of doing a whip around the NFL. The Bengals yesterday losing to the Patriots 16-10. Joe Burrow didn't look great. I know they got some receivers. I think one of their I think T. Higgins did play, but
telling me the hair didn't intimidate the opposing defense.
No. Jamar Chase played. I don't think T. Higgins played. That's not a good loss. I don't know loss is a good loss, but losing to New England, man, that is a bad loss yesterday for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Trevor Lawrence didn't get the win yesterday. Tua Tagovailoa had 338 yards against the Jags defense in a 20-17 win. Any panic for TL? Trevor Lawrence? The Dolphins are a good team.
Yeah, Dolphins are good. You shouldn't feel too worried about that one. I mean, I'm sure, Trevor wants to get his money back for paying off the police there in Miami-Dade County for helping him get T. Higgins off his game just a little bit, but didn't work out for him.
Let's see. The Vikings defeated the Giants yesterday, 28-6. It might be time to turn the page on Daniel Jones. Here's an interesting spot.
But they just paid him. What are you going to do now?
So that's where I was going. So they paid him. Yesterday, there's a video that surfaces of him leaving the stadium, and there are droves of Giants fans being very critical, like harsh, not like derogatory slander, like curse, but very, very harsh. Part of me is like, I feel bad for the guy.
The way only New Yorkers can.
Right. But part of me is like, I don't feel bad for him. He's making millions of dollars. He can handle that. He's terrible.
Throw stuff at my car, please. I make more money than you will in a game that you will make in your entire life.
They've messed up bad. I mean, they've messed up bad paying him what they did. Seahawks got to win 26-20. I'm going to brag. I'm going to gloat. My Dallas Cowboys, the defense looked really good yesterday. 33-17. One of those touchdowns came late as a kind of a trash touchdown. I'll say it, Diesel, because I may not be able to say it long. How about them Cowboys? Come on.
Congratulations on Dak Prescott not crapping the bed immediately after getting that fat paycheck. How long do you think that takes to go into effect? Like immediately?
No.
Did he get a pay raise after just that game? His game check went
up?
So
NFL players actually get to decide how they want their checks.
Okay.
They get to decide if they want them 52 weeks of the year throughout the season, or throughout the entire year, or if they want them just during the season and not in the summer. I don't know how long, but I don't think it'll take.
I couldn't be responsible enough to get 18 paychecks and then have that cover me for the entire year.
Nope.
Couldn't do that. We got a couple of interesting messages. Mike Main messaged in, said, can we talk about how Sam Darnold is having success in Minnesota? Any player who leaves Carolina's franchise instantly becomes better. Yeah, he had himself a good day.
He did.
208 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. He did throw a pick, but yeah, everybody that gets away from the Carolina Panthers immediately gets better. Mark L.O. Ducks says, look at McCaffrey on the 49ers after he left the Panthers. Yep.
It's true.
DJ Moore is looking great with the Bears. Hassan Reddick. The list is long.
Come on, guys.
Now, do we know what happened with the Carolina edge rusher that left this year?
He went to New York, right?
Yeah.
Brian Burns?
Brian Burns.
I don't know. I hadn't heard anything. Let's see yesterday. Brian Burns had 4 tackles yesterday. Not bad.
Yeah.
So he was an impact. Made an impact. The Buccaneers, man, the Buccaneers looked really good yesterday. Without Dave Canales, Baker Mayfield was fantastic. 4 touch. What's Baker Mayfield becoming all of a sudden? 4 touchdowns, 37-20 win. They put up 37 points on a really good Washington defense. I was impressed by that. And then lastly, Diesel, last night, the Lions, 26-20 over the Rams. Stafford, he doesn't really impress me anymore. He can still make good long throws, but he just doesn't have it. I think he's lost a little bit.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got to watch the start of that game. I got to watch a little bit more of that game in a location I didn't want to watch that game. And then I missed the tail end because we had to go in and see the doctor late last night. Had to take Kitty Cat to the emergency vet last night.
Good.
Not good. He had to have a little surgery last night, or actually had the surgery today. But never a fun thing when you have to take a pet to the emergency vet in the middle of the night, because you know why? It's always going to be expensive. And it was.
Waffle chimes in on the text line 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Waffle says, diehard Titans fan here. Miserable second half for the Titans. Absolute meltdown offense and special teams. Titans defense was A+. Yeah, that's tough, man. That is a tough one. Titans, I don't want to say that's a terrible loss, but when the Bears do almost nothing offensively, you've got to win that game. You really do. And they that's a tough one.
Yeah, in the NFL, if you can't muster 14 points a game, just by having a serviceable day from your quarterback,
all right,
you're going to struggle.
Before we run, because we have David Hood coming up next at TigerNet. Jets, 49ers tonight. Your prediction is 49ers?
49ers cover.
49ers cover, says Diesel. Spread's 4.5. I'm going to be wrong on this. Jets cover. I'm going Jets cover. I'm not saying they win, but it's a close game tonight, 1 or 2 points. Give me the Jets to cover the 4.5 tonight.
When we come back, we'll have a conversation with David Hood of TigerNet as Clemson came off of a phenomenal performance Saturday night against App State. That's next on the Fan Upstate.
saw, and for whatever reason, want to call it a different play call set, whatever, didn't show up against Georgia, but he said, this is what we can do, and you're going to see it all year long. And so I think that, there was, let's come out and show everybody this is going to be who we are, not what you saw against Georgia.
We got David Hood of TigerNet joining us here on the Fan Upstate. David, Clemson went for it on 4th down 3 times in the second half. One of them was a 4th and 4 from the App 5 with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. They ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive, pushing it to 63-20. They went for it twice more in the fourth quarter on 4th down, once with Fazina, once with Pierman, both throwing the ball on 4th down. Did Dabo give any explanation as to why? I mean, it felt a little bit to me like running up the score. I understand you want to put your guys into certain scenarios, but do you think there was any kind of an element, as Cole kind of alluded to there, of trying to create a narrative and maybe put up big numbers to look good for a committee down the road?
Yeah, maybe there's a small part of that, but in talking to people, it was more trying to get Christopher Vazina snaps. And if you got to go for it on 4th down, you're going to do that. He really didn't play last year, was going to have limited snaps Saturday. And so it was kind of a win for App State situation, because Clemson could have kicked a field goal there a couple times. Could have just added 3 points and walked away with it. But Dabo kind of wanted to force Vazina to make plays. They want film on him. And, I think App State understands that. And so you made him pull it one time and he scores the touchdown. You just want to see, as many reps as you can, because he hadn't gotten a lot. And with the schedule that they have going forward, hosting NC State, then Stanford, got to go on the road to Florida State, at Wake Forest, may not be a whole lot of snaps there either. So you get snaps for your backup quarterback while you can.
David, it was a weird atmosphere in the press conference room on Sunday morning, almost 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m. when we finally heard from Dabo. The reason I say it was strange and weird is because, Clemson got the win. However, when Dabo Swinney came into the presser, he talked about DeAndre Overton and the loss for Clemson. I don't know, in your time covering Clemson, as long as you have been, I don't know if you can recall just a moment that's as tough for Dabo Swinney to have to go through.
No, nothing quite like that. Obviously, there's been times, we had the interview with Tony Elliott right after Tyshawn Dye passed away from the drowning, and that was really tough. And that was tough on Coach Swinney. And, there's been other times, C.J. Fuller, when he passed away from the blood clot, where there's, kind of been those tough moments in talking to coaches, but nothing right after a game like that. And so it was a little bit of a different moment. And, and you understand that what Dabo was saying was the truth, man. DeAndre was liked by everybody. And this is a kid who was talented enough to have gone somewhere else, to pack up his bags at Clemson and go, you know what, I'm not staying behind these cats anymore. I'm not staying behind the Justin Ross and the T. Higgins and the Marlowe. I'm going to go somewhere else and play. And he didn't. He stayed with his teammates, saw it through to the end, won 2 national championships, and never complained. You never heard him one time complain about playing time. And, I remember he told me in an interview one time, I'm just here to help everybody get better. And if that means during the week I need to go over to scout team and play somebody else's best receiver, that's what I'm going to do. That's the kind of kid he was.
You can find him on Twitter at @MDavidHood. David Hood joining us here on the Fan Upstate. So limited sample size between these two games so far, but, lowest of the lows against Georgia, highest of the highs against App State, 2 vastly different opponents. Now you've got a week off. How does Dabo reel this team back in so they don't get too far over their skis heading into the next game 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, I think this is a good time for them to kind of heal a little bit. We'll find out about Peter Woods at 5:30 when we talk to Dabo and see just, if he's going to be out or how long he's going to be out. And talking to a former player, too, just a little bit ago, he said, man, I wish we played this week. Wish we could keep the momentum going. But, maybe it'll be good. They've got all that success behind them from the past week. Now they can sit and watch a few games and, watch NC State and start their game plan for them. Now they have 2 weeks to prepare for the Wolfpack. And so for Coach Swinney, one of the things I wrote this morning was that maybe his best coaching job coming out of that Georgia game was getting this team to understand and still believe that that's a good football program. It's a good football team over there. and they came out and played like it. You could tell early on they were taking App State serious. They opened up the playbook and went out, kind of played up to their potential, and you saw good things. I think that's a great coaching job by Dabo.
David, do you believe in any of the narratives when you talk about sandbagging, Dabo talking about last week's Georgia game being a preseason game? In your mind, in your opinion, is there any truth to Clemson holding back against Georgia in terms of why they just didn't look like themselves?
I'll tell you what I really and truly believe. I don't believe in sandbagging or anything like that. I think that Kaye came out through that first pass down at the feet. Brenningstool dropped a pass. Couple motion penalties against Adam Randall, and the offense just looked out of sync at the beginning. And so, they still took deep shots. There were 4 shots that they really took down the field, didn't work out. But it was more about let's protect the football. Let's try and keep everybody healthy. Once Georgia kind of came out there to start the second half and took control, Clemson came down, didn't score a touchdown, but got the field goal. I think the offense kind of even more at that point, kind of, you didn't see him go into panic mode or hurry mode or anything like that. It was more like, let's just run these plays that we have and kind of get out of here. And then Dabo said after the game that it was, more of a scrimmage than anything else. So it seemed to me, I don't know if you'd call it sandbagging. I don't think so, but it was more like, we know what Georgia is. We know what they can do. Offense is out of sync. Let's just kind of get out of here.
David, Clemson certainly got a clear and defined playbook on how to stop NC State from Tennessee. I mean, they shut the Wolfpack down. In your experience, how much do coaches sort of copy paste what Tennessee did versus how much do they need to use that as the same concepts and then tweak them to scheme to give that team something different to look at 2 weeks from now?
Oh, yeah, college football is just like the NFL. It's a copycat league. Everybody's going to look at what everybody else does. And, you take a look at what Tennessee did. You go, okay, man, that's pretty good. One of my Wolfpack friends texted me about third quarter during that game. He was at the game in Charlotte. He said there is a vast talent differential here. So Tennessee was able to, take advantage, kind of keep Concepcion in check for the most part, and some of, what they tried to do with Grayson McCall. And you better believe Wes Goodwin's taking a look at every bit of that and trying to figure out how to stop that NC State offense, which, if you look at it, even against Western Carolina, it was really, can they get Concepcion in space? And nobody else really stood out to you or anything like that. So, for Clemson, it's going to be, can you kind of corral him and make somebody else beat you?
David Hood, TigerNet, joins us every Monday at 4:20. It's fascinating when you look at the play of Klubnik and getting those guys involved early. Do you think, David, that coordinators and head coaches, Garrett Riley and Dabo Swinney, do you think that their philosophies change throughout the season? Because we all know what their schemes and philosophies are. But when you see the impact that the young guys made who didn't play early against Georgia, you would maybe lean to believe that maybe they'll change their philosophies on getting these young guys involved early.
Oh, no doubt. And, I think you've seen it the past couple of years that, you kind of come out one way and you see what you've got. Maybe you don't trust your quarterback. Maybe you don't trust your offensive line last year. You change things up into the offense that we wound up seeing, which was kind of painful. And then, then as the year went on, you kind of saw Clemson go to that 2-back look with Shipley and with Maffa. And it was, let's lean more on the running game than the passing game, because as good as we thought Clemson was down the stretch, Klubnik still threw, I think 6 interceptions over the last 5 or 6 games. There were a couple of games where it was like 109 yards passing, 101. And so they changed their modus operandi, and they went with the running game. And so now it's going to be, okay, now let's get the ball out to Brenningstool. Hopefully they get Tyler Brown back healthy. But get these kids going and get them going early. I thought it was kind of funny there on Twitter. I said if it was me, I'd throw a deep shot to Wesco on the first play. Well, it was the third play. I'm still taking credit for
it. David, you also tweeted, and I noticed this while we were sitting there watching it live, that Trent Pierman and Billings led Clemson down the hill. Why did those two take off down the hill before everybody else?
Well, because of DeAndre Overton, who wore 14. So those are the two guys that wear 14 currently. And I got to admit that was in a bit of an emotional moment. For us sitting there in the press box that knew DeAndre and Dabo letting the 214s run down the hill first. That was classy move.
Hey, David, a come-out game, if you will, for Sammy Brown, who had 9 total tackles, 7 solo tackles, a big game for him, a guy that did not see the field against Georgia. When we talk about, philosophies defensively, I don't know the exact reasoning Wes Goodwin didn't have more rotation against Georgia, but you got to feel like regardless of who you play, if you're Clemson, these guys on defense that are a little bit younger, including Sammy Brown, have got to see the field.
Yeah, and I thought that there had been some issues at nickel, and we saw Shelton Lewis kind of play in there a little bit Saturday. They moved Khalil Barnes from nickel, where he's really good, to safety. Colin Griffin maybe not doing as good as they thought. And, there's a part of me that wonders, do you move Wade Woodaz back to that nickel Sam to get Sammy Brown out on the field more? I think that's going to be interesting to watch going forward, is just trying to figure out how they fit the pieces that they have. You feel really good with Lucas. You feel really good with Shelton Lewis. You feel really good with Avion Terrell out at corner. Ashton Hampton is really coming along. So how are they going to try and fit those pieces in at safety? Mickens has played really well back there. Nobody else has, and they've kind of struggled in some other spots. So, will they keep Khalil there? Can they get Sammy on the field? It'll be fun to watch what they do against NC State.
Yeah, David, you made it a point to point out just how many guys Clemson got into the game. I think you tweeted 105 or so guys got into that football game. Who of the depth chart guys would you say came in and kind of surprised you, kind of showed you a little bit on their limited reps in the second half?
I like Dietrich Pennington. I think he came in, and he's a big guy that they have tried to bring along. And in his limited time out there, I thought that he played fairly well. I loved what Sammy was able to do. Sherrod Coble is a kid that came in at safety, and he likes to run downhill and hit people. Impressed with him. Would have loved to have seen Robert Gunn in a situation to come out and try and kick a little bit. Jack Smith, the punter, he got in. Vic Burley, he got in. Champ Thompson, got to see him play a little bit there on the defensive line. There were just a lot of guys that it was kind of good to see them go out there and get reps. But I was really impressed with Vizina. He came out on that 4th down there on the goal line. He's got better wheels probably than people thought. And I thought that his passing was on point.
David, fantastic stuff as always. We really do appreciate your time each and every Monday, and we will talk to you next week as the Tigers get ready for NC State.
Hey, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Diesel, did you expect me to have Fran Brown, head football coach of the Syracuse Orange, Fran Brown audio on the show today?
That's an audible to close the show out today.
It is definitely what you didn't have on your bingo card. A little battle, if you will, a little beef between Fran Brown, who's the Syracuse football coach, and Brent Key, who you and I got to talk to at ACC Media Day.
You could have given me 30 guesses to guess which team Fran Brown is the coach of.
Never got.
And maybe 2 of them would have even been college football.
Well, guess what? He's the coach of Syracuse. So evidently during the week, Brent Key made a comment about their matchup Saturday, which, by the way, they lost. Syracuse won. Here's what Fran Brown said after the game after beating Brent Key in Georgia Tech.
Because he said he wanted to fight from 12 to 4. So that's all I was thinking about from 12 to 4. That's why I was and you know me. So it's a big difference. When you know who I am and you come at me about toughness, like, don't do that. I took this game was very personal. And then you know that I coach with Kirby Smart and Muschamp. So why would we not be a tough physical football team? That's just what they do, and that's what I'm here about, and that's where I was at. And I did take that very personal, and I want to make sure everyone understands that when you play us, just be quiet. So then that way we're just going to go worry about us throughout the week. Don't give no ammo to me.
Don't give no ammo to me, says Fran Brown. Diesel, okay
Love
with
it.
that?
I love it.
Too,
Are you
man.
telling me Syracuse has been one of the most feckless football programs for the last 30 plus years.
Yes.
No identity. They tried with Dino Babers. Everybody wanted it to work out with Dino, and it just never did. Right. So finally, they got a tough, hard-nosed son of a you-know-what.
Yeah.
With the headset on there in Syracuse, New York, and that fan base is gonna love him.
And Syracuse, Diesel beats Georgia Tech after Georgia Tech beats Florida State, right? Everybody's thinking maybe Georgia Tech's for real. They're 23 in the country.
Yep.
Syracuse hangs 31 on them.
Ouch.
Kyle McCord, 32 of 46, 381, 4 touchdowns. Kyle McCord went off on Saturday for Syracuse.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I love the beef. I absolutely, you, by the way, former Ohio State Buckeye.
Yep.
Just going off. And maybe Syracuse is a little bit underrated. Maybe the ACC is down. Maybe there's more parity this year than there's been in a while. But you know what, man? I respect it. Fran Brown says, don't give me no ammo.
There's an awful lot, or there had been an awful lot of soft coaches in the ACC.
Yeah.
And it's time for the ACC. I don't know how to say this on the air without getting in trouble for it for the FCC. The ACC needs to get hard.
There
Fast,
you go.
right? Like they need some tough-nosed head coaches because they've been missing it for a while. They thought like, hey, we're going to hire the guys who are great at Cincinnati and the guy that was really good at Memphis. And they just don't come in with that in-your-face, I'm tough as nails attitude. And, you know, Brent Key is one of those type of guys. I loved him. I loved our conversation with him at ACC Media Days. Obviously, Fran is the same kind of dude. We need more of those. North Carolina is going to be looking for a head coach before long. That is a wine and cheese football program. They need somebody to come in there and shake it up and be tough in Chapel Hill.
You don't think old Mac's going to last much longer? Like not croaking, not dying. I mean,
no and no to both of those questions.
No and no.
What's Mac Brown? He's got to be like 75, right? 76. He's an old dude.
You know, I mean,
say law of averages.
No, I'd say close to 75. He's 73.
73 years old. Speaking of which, just a sad day for lovers of the movie Sandlot and Star Wars. If you hadn't heard, James Earl Jones passed away today.
Oh,
just an absolute legend. What wasn't he in like Angels in the Outfield too? I think he was in Field of Dreams. I mean, I'm just trying to remember his filmography off the top of my head. He was in a bunch of great sports movies. It's like Loki. Of course, he was Mufasa in The Lion King.
Yeah. And by the way, Coach Bennett Swaggart, who we've had on the show, Diesel, Hillcrest head football coach, says, y'all know Brent Key and Brown both are connected with one connection. Western Carolina University have connections. So he's saying Key and Brown, Georgia Tech head coach, Syracuse head coach. Both have a little Western Carolina history. Didn't know that. Look at Coach Swaggart for dropping the bomb in there. And you know what, though? There's a lot of coaches. Like, that's one thing I love about college football. There's so many coaches that have, like, that are related on the coaching tree that you just don't know about. You just don't. What a great show today.
That's true. We'll be back to do it all again tomorrow. Wait, were they on Mark Spear's staff together at Western Carolina?
Maybe so.
Coach, text back in.
You think so?
Were they on Coach Spear's staff?
How long ago was that?
Mark Spear came back to App State like 4 or 5 years ago.
Maybe so.
And he was there for close to 7 or 8.
How about that? Look at you.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow, Tolo.